KBF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Do you have an announcement to make right off the top here, Gino?
Yeah, I probably should have done this earlier, but I've come to a decision here in the sports bar, and I'm not going to do one of these radio teas. Just get this out of the way. Like, coming up at 5 o'clock today, I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. Let me just get this off the top so you know what I'm thinking here, and that's this, that I am announcing my retirement.
Whoa.
I will be stepping away from the show as long as you'll still have me in the year 2039. That will mark an even 50 years for me from the first day I actually got behind a microphone in college for the first time. So I figured 2039. But here's what I'm grappling with, Danger. Like, for 2039, ideally I want to take the spotlight away from something else. So I'm going to leave it open-ended. Like, if RIT makes it to the Frozen Four in 2039, then that's when I'll retire. And if that doesn't happen, if it's an Amerks Calder Cup, then coming up when the Amerks hoist the cup, that's when I'll retire.
So you're saying you would like to take some of that shine from the championship team?
Or even, it doesn't have to be a team. Like, if Oak Hill has a major in 2039, that would also be ideal. Like, this will be it. So for me, I just figured, let you know and the audience know.
The old 14-year notice.
14 years from now.
Yeah. That's
I will not be working.
Yeah, way to one-up our buddy Jim Nance with the 11-year notice earlier this week. That's good, Gino. 14-year notice. Well, Gino, I guess happy trails. We'll raise a glass to you in 14 years.
But see, does that work? Like, something. But wait. I already said I was going to leave in 2030.
Right.
No.
Now you want to stick around for a few more years after 2039? Will be 50 years for you on the air?
Yes. So I think that's what Steve Hausman did, and I think that's an honorable thing to kind of shoot for 50 years.
Ooh, okay. So, yeah. That would put me right at, like, standard retirement age. That would give me another 15 years to go. Can I announce my retirement in 15 years?
That's it.
All
Let's
right.
do that.
2040. 2040.
2040.
I'll be stepping away in the year 2040. Thank you, everybody. And I still can't get over the 11-year notice and marking it by his 51st year and the 100th anniversary of the Masters.
That would be the perfect time for me to
be able to say, I've called more than half of these tournaments. I've been here for more than half of the time that this tournament has existed.
See, when I was critical of Nance, okay, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure, but why don't people get that shows a tremendous lack of self-awareness? That if you're doing some of that, if you have that private goal, great.
Well, I wonder if when, again, I think it's about relatability. If you're Jim Nance, if you're a billionaire NFL owner, do you have do you even care about self-awareness other than how you outwardly present when you're in the public eye?
I for example, okay, it's the Super Bowl. I'm Shad Khan. I'm going to pull up in my super yacht.
Zero self-awareness.
No self-awareness.
Right.
I think that it's, look, we all want wealth, but the person that flaunts wealth?
At some point, I don't know, like, if you had a super yacht, when would be the appropriate time and how would be the appropriate time to use said super yacht without flaunting it? I think as soon as you have one, it doesn't matter if you're trying to or not. You're just flaunting it.
I think you can disappear to a corner of the earth. You can go to the Mediterranean. You can be with other super yachts.
Yeah,
if
but
you're pulling up to the Super Bowl where people, it's the one place where people actually know you.
Yeah. I remember one of our vacations when we were the island of Capri, and they took us around the island to the Blue Grotto, which is this kind of like tourist destination. It's really cool. It's only, you can only get to it a certain part of the day because the tide rises, and if it gets low enough, you can go into this like cave, and the way the sunlight hits the cave, it makes the water like iridescent. It makes it just this unbelievable shade of blue, like a blue like you've never seen in real life. And on the way to the Blue Grotto, we saw some of these just massive boats, and I'm like, oh man, how wonderful it must be to just drop anchor and say, yeah, we've arrived, we are here, and it says everything we need on it.
Well, if you go to Nantucket, Danger, and I don't think I'm going to be going back anytime soon. Okay, we did check on that. We went a couple years ago, took the day trip over there, and you can walk right on the docks where all these boats are parked. And it's like, to me, that's like, whoa, you're just looking at all these expensive boats that you've only seen pictures of before. I'm looking for the 5 rings. I'm looking for the boat. And that's not parked anywhere. If it is, he's not like flaunting it. But again, I don't know who owns what yacht, but it's.
Yeah. But back to the Nance thing and the lack of self-awareness, I just think that when you're in that class, you're in your own universe, and everybody else is. I think you lose some of how to relate to others, how to relate to us common folk.
Well, you go back to, the Pagulas, when it was Pagula Sports Entertainment, and they have some company meeting as reported by Tim Graham, and there's a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint is, here are our objectives, broken out into categories like this. It's the Buffalo Bills. Okay, we make money on the Buffalo Bills. It's the Buffalo Sabres. Okay. Rochester is a category. Hey, okay, that's great. A record label. Remember when they had a record label?
Mm-hmm.
Another company objective in this flow chart: maintain Pagula family lifestyle. Can you imagine being an employee, I don't know, making somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000, and you see maintain Pagula family? That to me is like, all right.
Yeah, hey, no problem, Terry, Kim. I'll work 12-hour days as I'm working my way up the ladder here, making $50,000 a year, so that you can take a vacation, whenever you want, wherever you want, for however long you want. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. That's fine. We had that happen here. Our old CEO set off an email while vacationing
the Serengeti.
in the Serengeti. He was like in the on a safari, and everybody it was around the time, I think it was around the time of the recession, if I'm not mistaken. It was around that time.
Wow. It was so misguided, because in sales, hey, you got to be aggressive. You have to actually always be on the hunt. Somehow me relating my vacation to other wild animals, eating other wild animals.
He saw lions and tigers in the safari, and
it's like,
go get them while I'm here vacationing. A family vacation as we take our 2-week-long safari. I noticed I saw some lions. Go get them. Go eat. Wait, hold on a second. You're sending this email while you're on vacation, on safari with your family? Okay. I just think there's a lack of. I think you're just in your own world. I think Nance is in his own world. I think billionaires are in their own world. I don't know that they lose their ability to relate to common folk, us.
And if you think I was like being serious, do you really think I'll retire in 2039, Danger? There's going to be some like girls' field hockey game I will be calling in 2040. You can mark it down.
We have a fun show lined up for you this afternoon. It's the weekend, baby. Yeah. Let's get there. Lots of action to get to, including our conversation mentioning the Pagulas here. Matthew Fairburn of The Athletic, covering the Buffalo Sabres. We're dusting off Fairburn Friday. If you're an OG Sports Bar listener, you remember we had Fairburn on with us every week. every Friday to talk Buffalo Bills when he was covering the Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. He's been on the Sabres beat for the Athletic here for the last 3 seasons, and he just put out a pretty thought-provoking piece at the Athletic.
Yeah, it's titled "The Buffalo Sabres Are Testing the Limit of How Much Suffering a Fan Base Can Handle." Okay, yeah, 14 years and counting, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. And if you're just a Sabre fan, like, okay, whatever, I don't care. Well, what if you are a season ticket holder that says, you know what, I think I'm done. Maybe I'll go buy a PSL. Maybe I'll do something else. Oh, by the way, there's this Canadian issue, and there's part of the fan base that, it doesn't really want to come over for, reasons. Wait a second. If all this stuff starts to pile up, is this franchise heading to a direction we just don't ever want to see here?
We had a passing conversation this week off air with an Amerks season ticket holder, and we asked about how often they get to go to see Sabres games, and I think he mentioned we went to 1 game, and when you looked at the price that you paid for that 1 game, the value just isn't there. What would make it valuable? Well, winning cures everything, but just really wipe the slate clean.
Only if ownership is going to say, here you go, what do you need to make this work? And right now, it just seems the priority with the Buffalo Sabres is, okay, we suck, but at least we're not losing money. Well, if that's the name of the game, then please sell the team. Because honestly, owning a sports franchise is a public trust. It is.
But please sell the team, man. That is a scary, scary notion, because who has billions of dollars that would buy the Sabres and keep them in Buffalo?
Own any. Do we want that either? It's fascinating to me how one man in the course of, you made the playoffs the first year, 15 years, can go from crying, a grown man crying at the sight of another man. That was Gilbert Perreault, and Terry Pegula burst into tears. Terry Pegula saying that, the famous, our purpose is to win multiple Stanley Cups. Okay, well, what about resources? I'll drill another well. It was all the stuff we wanted to hear. This is great. Oh, my gosh, this is always going to happen. And at the beginning, it didn't happen because it would seem like, okay, your efforts are in the wrong spot here. You really don't know what you're doing. Christian Ehrhoff is not a good signing. Ville Leno, not a good signing. And you've gone from that to, are you even paying attention? Do you even know what's going on?
A team that doesn't spend to the salary cap. Just a lot of things to unpack from this Athletic piece by Matthew Fairburn. He'll be good with his time and join us in 4 o'clock. Matt Fairburn Friday. I love bringing it back to talk some Sabres with Matthew Fairburn here later this afternoon in the Sports Bar. And our old friend Mike Mutnansky, the Friday 4-pack newsletter, the Mutt Stack podcast. He's stopping by the Sports Bar here in about 10-15 minutes.
So it's been a minute since we talked to Mutt. Great takes on everything in Boston sports, and that would include the New England Patriots. And I think we have to talk a little more Patriots here, just because if it's not a foregone conclusion that you just pencil the Buffalo Bills in. Yes, the Bills are the AFC East champions. I'd like to think that. I'd like to think that in comparison even to last year, when people were not only picking the Jets for the division, you have freaking Mike Clay picking them to win the Super Bowl. I mean, think how ridiculous that was. Well, I don't think it's ridiculous to think that the Patriots can contend for a playoff spot, and that the Patriots could actually kind of be a little pesky here. And they do have Diggs. That's going to be interesting. So where are the Patriots here in terms of their rebuild? We will also ask them the Red Sox question. And has the pendulum gone the other way? Meaning, did I get on board here but not look at this objectively? Because I'm like, wow, look at all the improvements that Boston media is now kind of second guessing, and maybe Mutt would say this, like, wait a second, are we overvaluing this Red Sox team? The optimism is just a little too high here in 2025 for a team that, quite frankly, didn't make the postseason in 2024.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Mike Mutnansky has to say about that. We have him joining us here in about 10 minutes to talk Patriots, talk Red Sox. We'll get some Boston sports here in the Sports Bar with Mutt in just a few. You can join us anytime this afternoon on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com.
There is one thing that we have here in Rochester over Buffalo. we are a much better baseball town. I'm looking at these pictures, and granted, the weather there isn't great, but it's opening day. There isn't anybody. The Red Wings are playing in Buffalo this afternoon. So right now they're in the fourth. Wings are leading 2-1, but I hope we get a better crowd for the Wings coming up this Tuesday.
That's Tuesday, opening day, April 1st. Not an April Fool's joke. Weather be damned. It's opening day in AAA, and the Bison's hosting the Wings this afternoon. We'll keep tabs on that score. We'll also, next hour, be keeping some tabs on the Hometown Heroes game between the RPD and the Monroe County Sheriffs. We've got to make sure Warren's texting us some updates.
I am promised that we will be getting updates from the Blue Cross Arena.
Yeah.
And look, we all want to support the men and women in uniform, right? And this would actually be a way to do it because the gates are open to the Blue Cross Arena. You can actually go down there 4 o'clock and watch this game. And when we talked to Greg Bello yesterday, and I look, there are so many issues in the world, right? We just kind of agree. Just to thank an officer is just kind of one thing. So we will, Hometown Heroes Night is always a fun night at the Blue Cross Arena. So you have the game before the Amherst game, and then the Amherst also 3 games in 3 days. You want to get at least 4 points this weekend. Bridgeport coming in for the only time. I don't want to say 4. Let me get greedy. 6 points this week.
All right. Very good. I like where your head's at. You'll hear that action on the Fan Rochester just after 7 o'clock tonight with Don Stevens on the call. We're halfway through the Sweet 16 after last night. Chalk.
Yeah, better seed. I thought Arkansas, boy, blowing a 16-point lead. Maryland, that was the easiest game to predict, right?
Well, the head coach, appears like he's checked out before the game even starts. Florida advances, taking care of Maryland, despite Queen's efforts there. I mean, great freshman who actually, the thing is, I don't know that we'd be having the conversation about the coach of Maryland if they don't get by Colorado State, thanks to Queen in the last-second buzzer beater. We'd have a 12 seed playing in the Sweet 16, the only Cinderella in the Sweet 16.
So do you think Willard was like, oh, damn.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, I can't get on with my life here. Got to stay at least another week.
Action tonight sees Kentucky, Tennessee, Houston, Purdue, Ole Miss, Michigan State, and Auburn and Michigan, the final 4 games of the Sweet 16 before we advance to the Elite 8. And by the end of the weekend, of course, we will have our final 4. We'll be ready for next week.
Just one NBA note I thought was kind of interesting from today. Did you see Memphis fired their head coach? And, okay, who cares? They're 44-29. They're in the West. They're the 5th seed. I didn't know you could fire a coach when you're not in last place.
What is
even when you are in last place?
Well, yeah, I'm wondering what the damage is here. What went on?
Right. It's Taylor Jenkins is the name of the coach. He'd been there 6 years.
Yeah.
And he kind of weathered some stuff there. Remember with John Morant getting all the issues that he had, and that was setting up for a nice first-round matchup if the seeds held against the Lakers. I'm like, okay, that would be interesting. Okay, why did you do this? Nobody's saying. Granted, it's Memphis. It's a small market, but feels like there's a story there.
Probably. And the interim guy is a Euro, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And that's interesting to me. That's different. So we'll see what happens with Memphis. But, yeah, I did see that cross my feed. I'm like, interesting. Why? What exactly went down? Why is that happening now with a team that will find themselves in the postseason?
There was one year where Lou Lamoriello, there's like 2 weeks left in the regular season, and he fired the coach. And then the Devils won the Stanley Cup.
Right.
So it's, you get into coaching, it's uber transient.
They should look into John Tortorella, I believe, is available for the Memphis Grizzlies. No?
John Tortorella in Buffalo.
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
Just give him the keys to the busted up Cadillac. There you go.
Just make it entertaining. Just get on players, yell at reporters, yell at everyone.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Mike Mutt-Nansky. Mutt. The Friday 4-Pack newsletter. The Mutt Stack podcast. Our old friend from formerly of WEEI in Boston, our Odyssey Sports sister station. Love keeping in touch with Mutt. We'll have him on next. We'll talk Red Sox. We'll talk Patriots. We'll talk Steph Diggs with Mike Mutnansky next on The Fan.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Rochester Red Wings opening day in Buffalo. They're in the fifth. The Wings are up 2-1. Amherst home tonight hosting Bridgeport. Head coach Mike Leone says it's all about his own team.
I think at this time of the year, the most important thing is to focus on our team and what we have to do to be successful. And our process that we go through to make sure that we're ready to compete and play the game that we want to play going into every weekend. And I think that's the biggest thing at this time of the year.
Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will have the call tonight beginning at 7 o'clock. The Division III men's hockey semifinal coming up this afternoon at 4. SUNY Geneseo taking on Hobart. Sweet 16 in men's basketball tonight resuming. First up, it's Ole Miss and Michigan State on CBS at 7 o'clock. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Always a treat when we get to catch up with Mike Mutnansky. Mutt joining us, the Mutt Stack Podcast, the Friday 4-Pack newsletter from New England, where a new receiver introduced the Patriots today, and Stephon Diggs, and that's just one of the things we wanted to talk to you about today. Mutt, thanks for making time for us. If you had to put a grade on the Patriots offseason so far with Vrabel in charge now and Diggs, the most recent addition, what grade would you give them?
Boys, good afternoon. Happy Friday. Solid B+. Solid B+. And the reason it's not a little bit higher than that is they still have a gaping hole at left tackle, which maybe they could address in the draft with Will Campbell at number 4. And I love the Diggs thing. We'll get to Diggs and what he meant for Josh Allen there in Buffalo, but there were other guys they could have targeted earlier. They went after DK Metcalf. Metcalf did not want to play for the team. They could have traded for Christian Kirk. They could have traded for Deebo Samuel, and they waited, and they end up with Diggs. It's a good consolation prize. He's a number 1 receiver, but I think they could have done a little bit more at that position. So I'm going to give them a solid B+ so far this offseason.
Before the Diggs questions here, Mutt, does anybody give Coach Mayo any flack there? Not standing down in Week 18 in Buffalo, that should be New England on the clock at number 1 overall. How much did that set the franchise back here, not having these options available?
I would suggest that many Boston sports fans would tell you that Grady Little keeping Pedro Martinez in Game 7 of the 0-3 ALCS against the Yankees was the worst coaching move ever. I would argue it's Gerard Mayo winning that stupid game in Week 18 against the Buffalo Bills, who were laying down and wanted you to win. Buffalo, to their credit, was like, fine, you want to win this game? Great, it's going to hurt your draft position. And Mayo freaking goes out there and wins the game. It was moronic. He should have been fired the second the game was over, not 45 minutes after it was over. And it's cost them the number 1 pick in this draft and all the flexibility in the world. Thanks for getting me angry on a Friday. I'm bringing that up, guys. Thank you very much.
Let's make you feel better again, because you mentioned it. You like the move to bring in Diggs. We looked at the number and we said, okay, that's a lot for a guy that's over 30 and in the kind of final years of his career, but you have the cap space to work with, and you have a history of a guy who has gotten, who helped Josh Allen get to where he is. Could he do the same thing with Drake May? But how much concern do you have knowing that he's coming off of that ACL, Mutt?
Well, I'll ask you guys a question about Diggs at the end, but there is concern, and that's why it was so refreshing to see them make this move, because they spent money on a risk. At this position especially, they have been so risk-averse to, going out and signing big-time players. Before this, their big-time free agents at receiver, going back 15 years, have been Danny Amendola and Brandon LaFell. They've had a couple of good trades that have worked out for them, but in free agency, they have failed because they've not spent the money. This could be a mistake, and that's why I give them credit, because you've got to spend money at receiver. So, yes, it's a risk. It's a risk worth taking because top receivers make quarterbacks better. And I wrote about this today at mutstack.com. I had the 2019-2020 comp for Josh Allen, your guy in Buffalo, who I love. And the production from 19 to 20, the first year that Diggs showed up, was unbelievable. And I will give Allen a lot of the credit, obviously, developed year 2 to year 3. But it looked to me like Diggs showed up, guys. He was the number 1 target for Josh Allen, and it made him a better quarterback. Am I overrating what Steph Diggs meant to Josh Allen there in that first year.
No, not at all. I mean, there's a difference of opinion on Diggs because a lot of Bills fans hold on to the, hey, I chested up the head coach. Hey, I showed up the quarterback in a playoff loss to Cincinnati. And by the end, I think, okay, maybe it's time to move on. Part of the fan base will look at him, and when he comes back to Buffalo, a lot of fans are going to boo him. Danger and I think, Danger, if I'm speaking on behalf of you, honestly, I think he will go down as the second greatest wide receiver in Bills franchise history, only behind a Hall of Famer, Andre Reed. And honestly, if he can do that a few more years in this league, who knows if he doesn't get his own green jacket, gold jacket.
Yeah, and he's not going to be that player here. He wasn't that player even in Houston. He talked today at his opening press conference. He was already quoting his receiving stats and X amount of consecutive 1,000-yard receiving years and how he would have had it last year. I love the guy's confidence, and they need that. And as you guys know, like it's a passing league now. I've said it with you on your show for years. The Patriots have sort of been allergic to trying to catch up to the rest of the NFL. This is an acknowledgement that, yeah, we need a top receiver to get open. When it's 3rd and 7 and the other team knows we're going to pass, we got to be able to complete that pass. And I'm not sure Diggs is going to be a top 5, top 10 receiver, but he can get open in man-to-man coverage, and he should make Drake May's life easier. So I like it, and we'll hopefully avoid the smashing of tablets and yelling of coaches on the sideline for a couple weeks at least.
The other guy that you guys got that we have some ties to, the early in free agency, Mac Hollins is a New England Patriot, and I know that that's not as sexy a name as Stephon Diggs, but his 1 year in Buffalo, pretty damn good football player, whether you ask him to play special teams or lead the Bills in receiving touchdowns last season. What was your reaction to that signing by the Patriots?
Yeah, as somebody who watches a lot of Bills football because I love Josh Allen and bets on sports and plays on DraftKings, it was a guy I knew because he kept getting touchdowns for Josh Allen. And you watch these playoff games in the red zone, like they're drawing up plays for Mac Hollins. So he doesn't wear shoes apparently.
Oh, he's a freak.
Kind of a different guy,
yeah.
But he seems like the type of player that should complement what they're going to try to do on offense is be a little bit more explosive. And he has ties to McDaniels, Josh McDaniels back to his Vegas days. So if that was their number one receiver move, I would hate it. But if he's part of a group that has, say, Steph Diggs, Travis Hunter, Mac Hollins, then all of a sudden it makes sense for them. Absolutely.
All right, let's talk a little betting because futures are always fun. And I'm just looking at the ESPN one. Maybe you get a different, but projecting a win total of 7.5 for the Patriots. Now, that's a team that finished. They're drafting 4th. I don't know, Mike. I think I would go over on that, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it's tough to say. You'd want to lay the juice. I think I looked at it earlier today at ESPN or somewhere else. It's like minus 145. So it's juiced up a little bit, but absolutely over. And it's over for a couple of reasons. One, you mentioned his name, Gerard Mayo. This is a massive, massive, massive upgrade on a coaching staff. Remember, Mayo was a first-year coach, and they struggled to find guys that wanted to coach with him. Their offensive coordinator was the 12th guy they interviewed before they eventually hired him. Now it's a real coaching staff, so a major upgrade there. Bottom of the AFC East schedule, which is always good, easier schedule than last year. And there is a track record now going back 10 years where if you spend the most money in free agency, you guarantee yourself a minimum of 3 additional wins the next year. All but one team the last 10 years that spent the most money has gotten 3 additional wins, at least 3. So I'm completely going with the over. There's not a lot of value there. You're going to lay a lot to win a little, which is not great. But I'm with you, man. I over 7.5 wins, should be a 9-win. Potentially a 10-win team, and should be fighting for a wild card spot in the AFC.
Mutt, you said something in when we were talking about the Patriots wide receivers, and it makes me curious about how you think the first 5 picks are going to go in the NFL draft. When you said Travis Hunter could end up falling to the Patriots, do you see that as a possibility? How do you see the first few picks falling here in the draft here later in April?
I mean, I think I'm absolutely wish casting it. I have no idea. So my hope, guys, is that and they should have number 1. Thank you, Gerard Mayo, but they have 4. And my hope is that everyone's saying Cam Ward's going 1, and it sounds like even though they signed Russell Wilson, that Shedeur Sanders is going to go to New York. And as long as 2 quarterbacks go, you can get your choice, or potentially not your choice, but one of 2, Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. I prefer Hunter. I think he's a once-in-a-generation talent. This is a guy that did it on both sides of the football and is just an absolute freak athletically and seems to be a guy who's want to come in and do whatever. And so I want it to be Travis Hunter. If it's Abdul Carter, fine with me. I don't want Will Campbell. I don't want him at 4, especially if they have to trade back and take him later in the first round, fine. But I hope it goes 2 quarterbacks in the first 3, and you are left with, if you're Mike Vrabel, with either Carter or Hunter, because they seem like the 2 most likely non-quarterbacks to be stars in this draft.
My gosh, what would there be a better pair of corners if you ended up with Hunter to go along with Christian Gonzalez in this league?
Yeah, and Gonzalez has emerged. I mean, they've not had a great track record, but in the draft recently, but he looks like a top 10 cornerback, and he graded out like that last year on a bunch of different grading websites. So whether he's a cornerback or if you convince him that his best role is wide receiver in the NFL or cornerback in special teams where he's a return guy, there's he or Carter are impact players right away, and hopefully one of those guys is there for.
What did you see out of Drake May towards the end of last season that has you optimistic about him moving forward?
I saw a guy who did not let the terrible team and terrible coaching staff around him get to him. Never made excuses, and just he was very even keel. Like a lot of rookie quarterbacks are very up and down and very emotional, and he was a steady Eddie. I thought, given what was going on around him with an offensive coordinator who was clearly going to be one and done, head coach who didn't know what he was doing, to be able to stand that even keel, I thought was pretty good. And I think what's going to surprise people this year is his running ability, because what they did last year, they protected him. As a coaching staff, they said, we're not very good this year. We're not going to run a lot. He is going to run a lot more this year, and he is going to add that to his arsenal, and that's going to make him that much better. And so he's going to run more than he did a year ago. He'll have better weapons around him. And if he can deal with what he had around him last year, this should be an upgrade that will only do him wonders this season.
Mike Mutnansky, our old friend, joining us here, the Friday 4-Pack newsletter. You can also catch his podcast, the Mutt Stack podcast. Mutt, I actually picked the Red Sox to go to the World Series, and part of my logic was, well, the Yankees, that lineup has a lot of questions. They're injured in the rotation. A lot of optimism in Boston, but did I fall into a trap there? Is there too much optimism for the Red Sox?
So I saw ESPN.com today, or yesterday, did their season preview, and a majority of their writers not only picked the team to win the division, the Red Sox, but to win the American League. And I think it's in. And you said you would have taken the Yankees in the lineup. I think a lot of people would have taken the Yankees if Garrett Cole did not get hurt. And now, by default, they were the Red Sox as a team with these 3 young prospects everyone's heard of. They signed Bregman. They have Garrett Crochet. They're division contenders. And maybe if things fall their way in the bullpen, they're pennant contenders. But I do get the sense, and I wrote about this today, the expectations now are through the roof. They were 3rd place last year, 5th place back-to-back years before that, last in the division, and now they're the favorites. So I don't know if you fell into a trap, but if you did, then a lot of people did, because all of a sudden they feel like the team everybody's picking to come out of the American League, which, given their last 3 seasons, is wild to me.
At minimum, it feels like we might have a renewed rivalry here between the Yankees and Red Sox, which has kind of been dormant here the last few years.
Yes, and I think what's going to help that is that Alex Cora, the Red Sox manager, he's dealt with some terrible rosters last couple of years. There was some speculation here in Boston he was not going to come back. I think into early last year that people felt like he wanted to go somewhere to win. And then middle of the year, bam, after he told everybody he was not going to talk contract during the regular season, he re-signs to an extension. And lo and behold, they go out and spend money. They trade for Crochet. This guy wants to win at all costs. Like the last spring training game they had in Mexico, exhibition game the other night before they went to Texas, Jarren Duran is stealing bases in the first inning in an exhibition game. Like they want to win so desperately. And I expect there'll be at some point a little war of words, a little battle back and forth. And Cora will be a part of that because he wants to win very, very badly here in Boston this year.
Mike, we love baseball here, not just the Yankees and the Sox. Are the Dodgers good or bad for baseball?
They're good because they have the most unbelievable player in baseball, first and foremost. And they're hateable because they spend so much money, because they have so many stars. I think they're good for baseball. I think it's become a regional sport. And it's tough to say that here in New England, where the Red Sox and Yankees are such, and the Mets are such a part of, my growing up and a part of my sports fandom. But it's pretty regional now, guys. In a lot of parts of the country, it's treated like the NHL, where it's sort of like the third or fourth sport behind the NBA and the NFL. And so if you have a team like the Dodgers that everybody knows, and if they know them, they either love them or hate them, that to me is good for the sport. And I think it'll be fun to watch to see if they can live up to the hype, because you talk about like hype. I mean, they have penciled this team in to win the World Series this year, win back. I like to watch from afar, and watching Mookie Betts, the one who got away in that outfield, you can sort of hate watch them. So I think that's good for sports when people don't like a team.
Mutt, I don't want to put you on the spot. The Friday 4-Pack newsletter, the Mutt Stack podcast, muttstack.com, and I'm just going to ask you outright, do you have any plays for tonight in the Sweet 16? I imagine you do.
I wish I was better prepared here, guys, to maybe a play. I had an event last night with the great Pedro Martinez.
That's a pretty good excuse, Mutt. That's a pretty good excuse if you're hanging out with Pedro.
Great event at a place called the Brook Casino in New Hampshire, and I was writing here today. And I will say this. I am rooting for Texas Tech. That would win me, guys. This is a big deal. Would win me my family bracket against my wife and my 2 kids. And the winner, you laugh now, the winner family bracket gets to pick a place to go to dinner and doesn't have to pay.
That's not
I'm
nothing.
Rooting for Texas Tech. I'm rooting for Texas Tech. My UConn Huskies are out of it. So I'm sure you guys have better plays than I do. I will let you guys point people in the right direction for the Sweet 16.
30 seconds, I'm going to tell you my Gerard Mayo story. Our audience has heard this. You'll appreciate this. Oh, boy. So it's the Patriots womp on the Bills, and my job is to go into the winning locker room and line up a guest. So I go up to the rookie linebacker drafted in the top 10, and I ask him, hey, Jared, would you have any time? Looks at me dead in the eye and says, yes, by the way, my name is Gerard. And I felt like this tall. I apologize. He's kind. He does the interview. But as the interview is going on, and this taught me to become better prepared and even to rehearse for all different scenarios, I can't remember now. My mind's playing on tricks. So I just go to the other card. I call him. I thank Mr. Mayo for his time at the end. I'm a grown man thanking Mr. Mayo at age 21. So for in our show, we always call him Mr. Mayo. So week 18, we thank Mr. Mayo for just absolutely blowing the Patriot draft position. Now I feel vindicated.
Well, I once asked Brandon Bass why he chose Boston, former Celtic player, and he said, well, I got traded here. I didn't have much of a choice. So we've been there. We've been there, my friend. We've been there.
Mutt, tell everybody about the Mutt Stack. Tell everybody about what you got going on, because we know you're busy and you're doing a lot of writing and a lot of content is getting pushed out.
Yeah, you can subscribe for free. It's a Boston, New England-based sports newsletter that deals with sports betting, and sports media gossip, which, as you guys know, sports media people love to gossip. Muttstack.com. It is free to subscribe. Comes out every Friday. We do some horse racing coverage as well for the Triple Crown. But looking forward to the draft in a couple of weeks, and hopefully a little Patriots-Bills rivalry renewed, because that thing has been dormant since Tom Brady left here in New England.
Since the win game. We call it the win game.
Yeah, the win game.
The win game was.
Oh my God, Patriots! We went to Buffalo. Give me a break. I mean, that's not a real. I'm not counting that a real win for the Patriots. I'm not counting it.
Have a great weekend, bud. Thanks for the time, as always.
Anytime, guys. We'll talk football.
You got it. There's Mike Mutnansky. The Mutt Stack. Muttstack.com, the Friday 4-Pack newsletter, free to download there at his website. Check that out.
I got traded here. It wasn't a free agent. Oh.
Oops. Well, it happens to the best of us. It really does. Yeah, he says if you're buying the hype on the Red Sox, you're not alone. Everybody's buying the hype on the Red Sox. It's making you say, "Oh boy, maybe." Oh
boy, like it's when the public starts going one way, and I'm reading this, and granted, I found a little bit of like Patriot Red Sox Twitter, but I mean they're
Cora's
sky
the
high.
Truth, though, man. Cora that guy's a winner. That guy's a fiery winner. I like Cora. I do. I think
right. So let's compare. Okay, Red Sox fans and their feeling about Cora.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, won a World Series.
Yeah.
Tell me what Yankee fans feel about Aaron Boone.
Not a fan.
Aaron Boone hit a great home run once upon a time to
Don't-
send his team to the World Series.
Don't love
no?
him. No,
No?
I don't think they love him. I'm speaking on behalf of Yankee fans. I'm not. But
I've yet to meet the Yankee fan that's like, yeah, Boone, my guy.
Yeah.
No.
Well, at least we'll have that rivalry renewed. You would think this year, this upcoming baseball season, if the Red Sox are in contention, the Yankees, as a lot of people expect to be contenders as well. And the Diggs stuff is interesting. The Patriots stuff is interesting. The idea that they win after a bunch of guys before, and Diggs is like the consolation prize. Not a bad consolation prize when you look at his track record. And if he can go in there and do even a fraction of what he did for Josh Allen, for Drake May, I think most Patriot fans would sign up for that.
I do think Diggs brings in a different element to the locker room.
Oh, he brings a fire.
Yeah, like that's what you need.
He brings in a fire.
We were concerned. Yeah, we're like, okay, well, who's actually going to bring that fire in the Bills locker room? And turns out, all right, the kids kind of grew up, and it was just a collection of guys who kind of stepped up. And this is the Patriot team that won only 4 games last year. Technically, really only 3. If shouldn't count that last one. Yeah, I do see that kind of going the right. Now, are they ready to challenge the Bills for the division? The answer is no. But if they can get to 8 or 9 wins, and
You
they
said
can
the over-under is set at 7.5 for them?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Speaking of that, I've got a list of teams here and their win totals and where they've been set at here. We've got a couple. We've got 4 of them set at 11.5 that lead the league. We got a couple teams at 10.5, and we have a smattering of teams here. I'd say 7 teams listed at 9.5. We can dive into that. And let me ask you a little. I know you're the trivia guy every Monday night, Gino. Let me throw a question at you here, and we can think about it here over the break. There's only one NFL team to win a Super Bowl in 4 decades. Which team is it? Think about it. We'll take a quick break.
Read that again. The only team.
Only one NFL team has won a Super Bowl in 4 decades. What is that team?
Okay. Nobody looked this up.
Don't Google.
No.
Just use your brain. Think about it. We'll come back, give you that answer. We'll talk about these win totals around the NFL. That's on the way next on The Fan Rochester, along with your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com.
Fan Rochester at home by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
For the record, I did answer that trivia question. I did come up with it, but then took a call. You're always welcome to call 866-4FAN, 866-4326. But understand, with that trivia question, you're not going to win a prize here in the sports bar.
I'm sorry. Was that? Did I not make that clear?
Yeah, no.
Do we even have Disturbed tickets today? Or are we all out?
We do.
Okay.
We do, but we can't do that as a trivia prize.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And you know, if I wasn't clear about that, you win nothing if you come up with the answer. It's just kind of a little question there to scratch your brain a little bit. The only NFL team. I know you do. Because the guy that called gave it away.
I knew it before, though.
The only NFL team to win a Super Bowl in 4 decades. And I know people would immediately default to the teams that have won the most, right? Oh, it's got to be the Steelers.
No.
Oh, was it? Well, the Patriots dynasty didn't really happen until, so it can't be the Patriots. What about the Packers? They're a historic. No, not the Packers.
The one that I'm thinking, okay, the Niners, but again, that was narrow. It was only 80s and 90s with the Niners. Didn't do it in the 70s, and they haven't done it since.
The correct answer.
Yep. You want to give it?
Believe it or not, because it's funny to think about where they are today, is the New York Giants. The New York Giants have won Super Bowls in 4 decades.
Each of the last 4, not counting the one we're currently in. So you start in the 80s. They beat the Broncos. That was John Elway, second year. Not a close game. Then you get to the one like, oh, that was the 90s season. They get in right at the beginning of the decade.
Yep.
Super Bowl 25 and Parcells carried off the field. But then you get the 2 over the Patriots, which crossed between the decades, 07 and 2011.
Yep.
So 2011 feels like a long time ago, does it not? After all, it was the last time the Sabres won. They made the playoffs.
My God.
But could the Giants get it right to keep the streak going by the end of this decade? And the answer is danger. Well, they got to find the quarterback first. And to me, to find the quarterback, I would say it's a 3 to 4 year kind of process, is it not? 3 is being okay if everything goes right.
What if Shador gets taken by the Browns? You're waiting, right? You're still taking a quarterback. You're just taking one later. I can forget about guys like Kyle McCord, who worked out today for the Saints. Jackson Dart, guys like that.
What would upset Giant fans is, oh my gosh, one quarterback. Who's the next quarterback on our list? Jalen Milroe. Okay, well, it's too early to go for Jalen Milroe 3. Trade down, and then they go down to like 8 or 9, and then take the quarterback there. And give up a generational talent in Travis Hunter. Or the best pass rusher in this draft in Abdul Carter. Like, that would be the mistake. Either way, Giant fans, you should win. What you should do is this. Take either Hunter or Carter. Listen to me. And then see if you can trade back into the first round. See where maybe Sanders falls in this draft. Every year we have a quarterback. Look, how do they fall? It's interesting how Deion Sanders' tone has changed here.
Any team that needs a quarterback would be great for Shador.
Why is he saying that?
I mean, he just got that big extension. He's probably just happy. He didn't really care. No, I'm good. And by the way, deserving of that extension. I know that they haven't won a national championship or anything, but you can see that guy pumping money into that program, into that university. The idea that Syracuse and Colorado could have a spring game, like a spring scrimmage, these are innovative ideas that, to me, I'm like, yeah, he's worth whatever they want to pay him if he's coming up with ideas like that are going to generate even more interest and more money.
But that's the rare exception. I would say in college athletics today, it's you want to give that money to the talent, right? Not to the coach. Deion's the exception, but is there another coach that deserves 5 years, $54 million?
You think about some of the guys that are making what they make, and this puts him in the top 10. I want to say for college football coaches, he's not the highest paid college football coach, but when you look at that list, you kind of think to yourself, God, really? Okay, well,
how many outs? I'm just wondering, what is the language in that in that contract?
Yeah. I know that after talking to Mutt, you have a Diggs take, and we want to go over some of these win totals. We also have Matthew Fairburn standing by. We're going to talk about his piece on the Buffalo Sabres that he wrote in The Athletic. That's all coming up here on the Fan Rochester. We invite you to stay in the sports bar and join us if you'd like at 866-4326. We're also on X at the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
It is opening day for the Rochester Red Wings. They're down the I-90 in Buffalo. They're in the 6th. Buffalo has a 4-2 lead currently. Wings home opener coming up this Tuesday. Hockey night tonight in the Flower City as the Emeralds take on Bridgeport. Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call beginning at 7 o'clock. It's the Division III men's hockey semifinal. Currently Hobart leading SUNY Geneseo 1-0. They're in the 2nd. St. John Fisher women's lacrosse looks to remain undefeated on the season tomorrow as they host Sage. Our coverage will begin at 1 o'clock here on The Fan. Sweet 16 action tonight, beginning with Ole Miss and Michigan State at 7 o'clock. The Rochester Nighthawks looking to keep the win streak going back home tomorrow night against San Diego. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Save half off today to Eaglevale. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
We motor on through, onward to the draft. Another day, another discussion to have with you about it.
The Buffalo Bills select.
My shot at the Braves is they're not going to be that much better than the Mets this year. Braves in second, Mets in third. Obviously, Phillies win the division.
Mike Danger.
Gene, look at this body. Look at this temple that stands in front of you. This temple is clean. How dare you? No, I have never lost my voice.
Gene Battaglia.
Danger, for the record, I did not call you a company man. You are not this, okay? This is what a company man sounds like.
The Grizzlies have fired head coach Taylor Jenkins.
Sweet 16 continues.
Amerks, Sabres.
I got to tell you, I know you're going to be shocked by this. I've never watched a Hallmark movie.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
What effort by the Dandalorian. I mean, the Dandalorian just efforting today.
Dandalorian.
That audio.
The rare Dandalorian putting himself in the rundown, too, if you noticed. Giving the big voice guy, like, Amerks, Sabres.
Yeah.
Dan, like, think people, Sabres hockey tomorrow. Get excited. We will talk.
Who cares?
Well, about the
Sabres.
Yeah. Danger, conversely, off the ice, I think it's very interesting.
Agreed.
Very interesting because where does the story go from here? Like, if you're owning a business and your customers are very upset, and it's not like you have this new base you can kind of go for. How do you turn this thing around? And there are other factors at play. There's money that's going down to Orchard Park because you're asking well, some of that's going to go down there. There's money that's not going to be coming in from Canada. And there's part of the fan base that says, you know what? I'm out. I'm just out. Like, should we be concerned about the future of the Sabres? I'm not trying to sound an alarm here. However, when Matthew Fairburn reaches out to the NHL front office to discuss this, we're going to bring Matthew Fairburn on and let him put him in.
And when the Sabres don't want to give any comment for the story.
No, like Pete Coelli. I've known Pete for 30 years. Pete, you got to comment on that. At the very least, say, we are working, we're excited, whatever it may be. But to not comment, ... you don't care. That's the aura you're giving off.
I would say, for everybody, myself included, saying sell the team, the fear of that notion is sell the team doesn't guarantee the team stays in Western New York. And so I would just say, let's be careful with sell the team. We'll talk to Matthew more about that.
Yeah. It's there's a lot to kind of unpack with where things are with the Sabres on the business side here. The more fun thing to talk about, Danger, if I may, next Buffalo Bill season. I'm ready, okay? We're through the first wave of free agency. We got the draft coming up. We know the Bills are coming back to Fisher. Yes, I don't want to wish time away, but we're going to get to a point, and it's actually less than 2 months away. It'll be a weekday in May. Oh, here's the schedule. And that's always fun, trying to figure it out. And how would you like to, lay this out if you're a Bills fan? And I'm going to say this, Danger. What if Diggs is healthy? And it's kind of hard to kind of figure out May 17th or wherever the schedule gets released. But what if Stephon Diggs is healthy? Would the NFL take that risk and schedule New England in Buffalo in week 1? I mean, if you like storylines, that feels like Monday Night Football week 1, does it not? Like the NFL would be into that. Last year, the Bills, they gave us a 0 as an opener, Arizona. And look, I'm totally fine if the Bills get served a winnable game, let's say New Orleans coming here Sunday, week 1 at 1 o'clock. I'm fine with that. I'm figuring also, though, that the Bills will hit the max of 5 primetime games this season.
Schedule also kind of worked out last year. I mean, that Arizona game felt like a fourth, preseason game. I mean, it was a little bit tighter than I think we wanted it to be, but then in the second I was like, oh, okay, they woke up. Arizona's not that good. I would take New England week 1. I would actually take New England week 1, but I don't want them in primetime. I want them Sunday at 1 o'clock. Let's go.
All right.
At home, Sunday, 1 o'clock. If Diggs is healthy, if he's ready to go, let's set a tone. I think that would be a fun season opener. God, when do we get the schedule? May? Yeah.
Well, at some point, they're going to tell us, we know who's the finger quote home team for these overseas games. Yeah. I mean, could the Bills be going to Dublin?
Yeah.
Or,
I actually think the Bills will go to Dublin. I think it'll be Bills-Steelers. I think that's the Steelers, the home team. They gave up their home game, but I think the Bills would be I almost feel like that's a certainty. Well,
really?
Why would you send the Bills to Dublin? What do we know about the Bills fan base? They will go to Dublin and they will drink their faces off.
Oh, I thought maybe because Sean McDermott, good Irish boy he is.
Right. Yeah, McDermott's going to drink his face up. No. Drink milk, maybe.
Like, do you think Sean McDermott, like in the darkened hours of his office, will reach for the Crown Royal?
I don't think so, man.
No,
I
don't think so
really
either.
don't know that he puts that poison in his body.
No.
I don't know that he does.
It's funny, and maybe we can learn from other people. Like hearing Matt Perino, like you talk about the NFL owners meetings, right? And they have I'm trying to picture what is this like, how opulent, just how lavish this is.
Yeah.
And talking about the open bar, and Matt's like, no, that's
not really my thing.
Not my thing.
Yeah, I get that. I have lots of friends who I think it's become trendy in recent years to just say, I don't drink anymore. I quit drinking. Just stop drinking altogether. And they cite the benefits of that. Obviously, there are benefits to not drinking alcohol. And there's a part of it that's intriguing to me. Like, I wonder what led them to that decision. Like, was there a low point? Was it a health decision, a lifestyle change? Whatever it is, no judgment for me. If you're Matt Perino and you say, it's not really my thing, like, I'm not going to be the guy over here saying, damn it, why don't you drink? I can't trust you if you don't. Not me. I mean, like, you do you. That's totally fine. There's a small part of me that's jealous. I don't know that I have the discipline, especially family gatherings and, well, just in general. I don't know that I have the discipline to say, that beer, not for me. Not tonight. Not after a long week of work. Or that glass of wine with dinner. I think I might need that glass of wine with dinner. So, but yeah, the idea that the Bills could go to Ireland, I think that's a lock. That feels like almost automatic to me when you look at the schedule.
From a competitive standpoint, I would think you would want to have like the NFC team going over, right? And going over it, because then the Bills would actually have 9 home games, 7 road games, and 1 neutral site. Yeah, that's how it would work.
9 times.
So 9 times at home and only 7 true road games? That's advantage Buffalo on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the schedule will work out in their favor. It's a weird thing, but the NFL, they'll say every year, takes hours and hours and the matrix and everything we have to do to build a schedule. Somehow it seems like it always favors good teams because, let's face it, good teams are good. They're good for a reason. Yeah, you have to play a first-place schedule, but you look at, how it shakes out. And
can we put to rest, honestly, and I know I'm probably calling into question, multiple people's jobs, but the science and everything that goes into putting the NFL schedule together. In the day and age of AI.
I don't know
about
the science. I don't know about the science as much as just the scheduling difficulty of, making it fair. Like there's moments where it's like, oh, that team got screwed, or that, somebody will break down the schedule when it's released and say this team has to travel more than this team. This team has more net days rest than every other team. Whatever it is, like there's always it's impossible for it to be truly fair, but it does feel like it favors good teams. I think more than anything, just because good teams are good.
Yes and no. And I've been thinking about this because last year good teams had to play on Christmas Day. So, look, they're all got families and everything. You're going to be playing Christmas Day. Do the Buffalo Bills have to play on Christmas Day this year, which is on a Thursday, Danger? Or do they get a tap for one of those Thanksgiving, maybe that late Thanksgiving Day game? See, that's where I'm like, all right, well, you got to pencil in the Bills. And if you're Netflix, you're not paying for Falcons Panthers, right? And I don't think you would tap, again, these teams, all four of them. You'd have to bring in some other teams. So tell me who'd be 4 teams that would be attractive. Josh Allen would certainly be attractive on Netflix Christmas Day.
There are 4 teams with the highest win total in the NFL set at 11.5. Do you know those 4 teams?
Buffalo, Philadelphia.
Yes.
Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, and who's the other? Detroit.
No.
Oh! Who is the 4th?
The Ravens.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So where do they have Detroit? 11? 10.5?
2 teams at 10.5. Detroit is one of them.
Huh.
You want to know the other team? I told you earlier.
Chicago.
No. The 49ers have a win total at 10.5 right now.
How?
Right.
How? That feels like a franchise that is ready to go south very quickly. Like they kept Shanahan on another year. They have a quarterback that they really don't want to pay the money to. Again, it's a roster that just needs a flip. So how 10.5? When the Rams right now, Danger, the Rams are the best team in that division. Seattle's doing some interesting things. I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. And, little Kyle Murray will run around and win his 8 or 9 games, I'm supposed.
8 teams listed at 9.5. You mentioned one of them just now.
Rams.
Yep. Who else?
Oh, gosh, I got to rattle all these off.
Think of some.
Cincinnati. Give me Cincinnati. Give me the Chargers. All right, so I've got to get 5 more. Minnesota.
No.
Ooh, okay, that seems like there would be some value on that. Give me the Green Bay Packers. How many more do I got to get? 4? I'm not going to say Pittsburgh. Do I say Denver? The Denver Broncos. Okay. 3 more. Washington. 2 more. All right, we said Baltimore. We said Cincinnati.
I'll give you a hint. They each won their division last year.
Ooh, that's a good pull. The Houston Texans. And then who from the South? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank you.
9.5 wins. It's funny. You mentioned the Vikings. 14 wins last year. Not set it. I don't have their win total in front of me, but they didn't get that 9.5 threshold. But Green Bay did.
So what they're telling you is Minnesota will have a losing record with a rookie quarterback. That's what they're telling you if they can't get the 9.5 wins.
For the life of me, still don't understand Sam Darnold leaving Minnesota. Minnesota letting Sam Darnold leave. I know that Sam Darnold could turn into a pumpkin in Seattle, and it won't surprise any of us. But what he had in Minnesota, 14-win season, with that offensive line, with those weapons, with that head coach.
All right, I'm going to give you a theory. Tell me if it's how to what degree you would buy in. Because I do believe when it comes to the quarterback position that before we, the public, knows, if you know, you know. Like, you read all the stories about Tom Brady, and they knew. They knew, whoa, we have something special here, but Drew Bledsoe's a quarterback. That's why the second they didn't look back. And by the way, Brady, his second game was awful. They let him play it out. They stuck with Brady. I'm not comparing this kid McCarthy to Brady, but I'm just saying there's other instances. Seattle with Russell Wilson. Ooh, a 3rd-round pick. We've got something here. All of a sudden, he was out there.
They saw something.
They believe in McCarthy.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I'm giving you this. Now I'm going to give you the counterpoint. If you believe in McCarthy, then what the F are you dealing with even entertaining Aaron Rodgers? Woo! Woo! That's why it goes over to you, Danger, in the end.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me. I understand it. You might think you have your guy McCarthy, and that's great. But, and I know, quarterback on his rookie deal, it's an unfair advantage. You don't have a veteran quarterback. They still don't have a vet. They haven't signed a vet. It's not like you're going to be able to draft a vet.
Did you see who was in Cleveland yesterday? Specifically, Berea. When you say Berea, Ohio, unless you're from Cleveland, you think automatically the Cleveland Browns because that's where the Browns' headquarters are, Berea. Kirk Cousins was in Berea, which that's not where he's from. He lives in Atlanta. Why? All of a sudden, there are all sorts of rumors. I mean, is this tampering? Is this something else? And then this was a big topic on Cleveland sports radio that are we really going to trade for Kirk Cousins? So I don't think we ever kind of got to the bottom of that.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. That was yesterday.
Well, that was yesterday. And then I'm driving home Wednesday night. And JR brings on, and this is my friend from Atlanta Sports Radio, and they're talking, and he's got a big scoop here. Right now, I'm telling you, the Cleveland Browns are offering the number 2 overall pick for Dak Prescott. I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah.
And then, the guy originally out of Cleveland, that universally was shot down.
Yep.
And I think that's where we are. Like, you may have some sort of platform, but you just can't throw us against the wall.
Right. Yeah. God, it's going to be interesting, fascinating to see how that top 4 of the NFL draft falls.
Well, I think one is pretty set, though, right?
If they're going with Ward, yeah. I mean, Ward. If you want to believe that Ward is worth the number 1 overall pick, you're the Titans. You're in this position. Few very rarely are. Go ahead and shoot your shot. Go ahead. Or collect a haul and let somebody else make that move for Cam Ward. If you believe that Cam Ward is good, but not the franchise-altering guy that you would want out of your number 1 overall pick. And many people say that quarterback doesn't exist in this year's draft. I just think, where does Travis Hunter go? Where does Carter go? Those are the 2 that I'm really curious about. Does Shador fall? Does Shador go to Cleveland and ruin any plans that the Giants might have had to bring in Shador?
I love the fact when we talk to Mike Mutnansky that they still won't forgive Mr. Mayo for screwing this up. The Bills losing that game.
They wanted to. They're like, go ahead, win the game.
Go ahead.
You guys want it so bad. Go ahead.
Imagine that. Like, hey, we don't need a quarterback, but who would? Or maybe we just take Travis Hunter here at number 1 overall. The Patriots screwed themselves on that, and I love it. Brad in Rochester at 866-4FAN. Hey, Brad.
Hey, what if Kirk Cousins goes to Pittsburgh? What happens to Aaron Rodgers' melon? Does that just explode, or does he go to Cleveland and try and resurrect his career there?
Ooh.
I think with Rodgers at this point, it's just about the money. It's about the value. How much money am I going to make to show up and do what you're going to ask me to do? If it's Pittsburgh, if it's Minnesota, if it's Cleveland, it doesn't matter. It's really, I think that's what this is all about. Like, if I'm going to do this, it needs to be worth my while. It needs to be worth my time. This is a guy that gets $1 million for being on McAfee. Just to spew. That's all he does. Unprepared. I'm just here to spew.
I know, but it's just, I want to see, crisis mode of Aaron Rodgers going, I don't know where I'm going to start. I don't know where I'm going to play.
Or he just retires,
I want to be part of the party. I still want to play. I still want to play.
I don't know, man. I mean, I almost felt like when he left Green Bay, he was almost reserved to the fact that he could walk away. If he's already thinking that way, he could walk away this offseason. He hasn't made up his mind on what he wants to do.
He wants to be headliner.
I know. He wants to be the center of attention.
Still be part of the league.
Yes. Center of attention, of course. But at what price? At what price? If you assume that Russell Wilson is getting 10.5 guaranteed, then you know that Aaron Rodgers wants more than 10.5 guaranteed. And I don't know that there's a team that's going to look at Aaron Rodgers at his age with his production and say, "Oh yeah, you're worth more than that."
Thank you for the call, Brad. And you're always welcome to call us at 866-4FAN. I do think this about Kirk Cousins. I think he's done. Rodgers, I'll give him credit, but Rodgers maybe had a little more time to recover from his torn Achilles. To me, Kirk Cousins just had nothing last
Yeah, he hit a wall.
Atlanta.
I mean, he was productive early in the season and gave you a glimmer of hope if you're a Falcons fan. But yeah, he hit that wall, and it was staggering to see how bad he looked down the stretch.
If he wants to be a backup in this league, I'm sure he could stay in Atlanta.
What kind of a salesman is he? Can he sell a team on how he looked the first half of the season, on how much better shape he's in now, having a full off season?
By the way, does any team want? Oh, we got to have the cameras following us around.
Yeah, that's a problem too. Or maybe that's why he was in Cleveland. Cleveland just wanted to get on the quarterback show in any way they could. We're going to take a break and come back with our buddy Matthew Fairburn. We revisit Fairburn Friday. Man, if you listen to the show, we've been on for almost 9 years, and for a good chunk of the first few years we were on the air here on The Fan, Fairburn Friday was a thing. Talk Buffalo Bills with Matthew Fairburn when he was covering the team back for Syracuse.com. And, well, now he's at The Athletic. He's been on the Sabres beat for the last few seasons. And a real compelling piece on the future of the organization up right now at The Athletic that we'll discuss with Matthew Fairburn next. Not going to talk about players, not going to talk about who stays, who goes. The overall state of the Buffalo Sabres. What does this franchise look like moving forward in today's NHL? Matthew Fairburn, good with his time and joining us next on The Fan Rochester. Before we break, let's give away these free tickets to see Disturbed in the Sickness 25th Anniversary Tour. It's a week from tonight at KeyBank Center. Tickets on sale at Ticketmaster.com. You can win a free pair right now if you're caller 5 at 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326. You can see Disturbed with Daughtry and Nothing More. That's a week from tonight at KeyBank for free if you're caller 5 at 866-4326. Good luck.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. Sports Update.
It's opening day for the Rochester Red Wings. They're in the eighth down the thruway. Buffalo now a 5-2 lead. Red Wing home opener coming up on Tuesday. Hockey night tonight downtown as the Bridgeport Islanders make their only appearance this season. Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call beginning at 7 here on the Sports Leader. Now, before that, as promised, let's give you a score update going on right now at the Blue Cross Arena. The Rochester Police Department and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office in the annual benefit. They're tied at 2. They're in the second. The Division III men's hockey semifinal. Hobart leading SUNY Geneseo 1-0. They're in the second as well. St. John Fisher women's lacrosse tomorrow looking to remain undefeated on the season. They host Sage. Our coverage will begin at 1 o'clock here on the Sports Leader. Sweet 16 action tonight. Ole Miss taking on Michigan State. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome back into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. This is like a throwback here in the Sports Bar because for years and years and years, we did Fairburn Friday with our buddy Matthew Fairburn when he was working for the old Syracuse Post-Standard and covering the Buffalo Bills. Well, Matthew's been on the beat for the Buffalo Sabres for a few years now, working with The Athletic and doing a great job, joining us back in the Sports Bar. Buddy, it's great to have you on with us. And I wish we had, well, we have a lot to discuss. I wish we were talking about more uplifting things, but you wrote a great piece on the future of the Sabres organization at The Athletic that we wanted to dive into a little bit more with you. How you been, bud?
I'm doing well. Great to be with you guys.
Yeah, it's not a year where the Bills or the Sabres, I should say, will be going to the playoffs once again. But Matthew, you talk to season ticket holders, you talk to the league office. We have this issue going on with Canada. I mean, what is the level of concern right now as far as where do we go from here on the business side with the Buffalo Sabres?
Yeah, I think it's something that in the background has kind of interested me all season long, as you know, even going back to last season after they had that 91-point season 2 years ago. They were right on the cusp of the playoffs. Everything was, you know, there was a lot of feel-good vibes around the organization and the roster. And when I talked to people around the league, there was, you know, just a thought that the Sabres were inevitable. They were going to get there. And they take a step back last year, but even as they took a step back early in the season, it was like, man, the attendance isn't all the way back. Like, these people really want to see a playoff team, and they want to see, they need to see it before they believe it. And it had moments where the building was full, and we saw that a little bit this year as well. I think they have 4 sellouts, but I think when you see the results on the ice, the way they've been, 14 years without the playoffs is unprecedented in the NHL. It's a record that continues to go up. The Sabres own it, and they keep breaking it. And that's naturally going to wear on any fan base. And frankly, it's a testament to this fan base that it hasn't gotten worse than it has. You know, they're not the worst attendance team in the league, but you can only withstand so much. And in a sport like hockey, where you're so dependent on ticket revenue and the other revenue that comes from that, it does damage your business. And you see this as a team that does not spend to the salary cap, hasn't spent, you know, over the last 5 years, they're the only team that has left $6 million or more unspent on their salary cap. It starts to, there's a broken trust, I think, between the team and the fan base, and it feels like this season is a bit of a breaking point for people. They had Lindy Ruff to sell last summer. And if they go status quo again here going into next year, I don't know exactly what they're going to sell. And they really have to hope they win, because I think ultimately that's the only thing that brings people back and makes this the type of hockey town that everybody remembers it can be. Everybody knows it has the potential to be. We see the TV ratings for the Four Nations and for the Stanley Cup playoffs. People love hockey here, but like as one person in the story put it to me, like, this is a hockey town, but right now it's not so much a Sabres town, and that's sad that it's gotten to this point. And they need to recognize, I think, the urgency of that, because you can only put people through so much, especially when you're a smaller market that punches above its weight. You need to give people reason to buy in, and they've just done a lot to give people reason to check out.
Like any story, Matthew, and I think you would agree with us, it's never just one thing. I mean, losing right at the top of the board, but we have this other real-world issue that is impacting all sorts of businesses. Ask any Visitors Bureau in New York State right now. They're a little concerned about what may happen here as far as visitors coming down from Canada. You have Canadians selling their properties in Ellicville, for example. What's going to happen with that Canadian fan base, do you think, whether it's just the Leaf fans showing up or Canadians just canceling their season tickets here, perhaps?
Yeah, so the Sabres have, roughly 7 to 10% of their season ticket base is, Canadian, and that's a significant number. When you're talking about, they're probably hovering in the 9 to 10,000 season ticket range right now, and when you have that low of a number in general, losing anything is not good. I think it will be somewhat case by case. It's interesting. It feels like sports might fall into a little bit of a gray area. The data and the story that we had was roughly 70,000 fewer people crossed the border in Buffalo in February this year compared to last year. So we're still in the early part of figuring out what this is all going to mean, and a lot of it changes day by day. The Canadian season ticket holder that I quoted in the story plans to be back and said as long as it's not so difficult to cross the border, which is a big question for people, is there going to be extra layers to get through the border, and is the Canadian dollar going to be really negatively impacted? But there's also just the question of, will people feel like they don't want to spend their money here, right? Like you mentioned, with people selling their properties or doing what else. The border crossing data suggests that there are people that will not want to spend money here, but do they view buying a ticket to a hockey game, or buying season tickets to this hockey team as supporting an American company? Maybe. There's Canadian guys on the team. Lindy Ruff's from Canada. They play, if these are visiting fans, right? If you're a Senators fan and you're coming over the border, like, you're supporting the Ottawa Senators in that case, but the money goes to an American team. It's an interesting situation for the league, but it's also unique to Buffalo. And maybe Detroit and Seattle fall into this like border town spot, but when you have 7 to 10% of your season ticket base, and then you mentioned the Toronto fans come down and fill up 70% of the arena, it seems like, when they play here in Montreal. People come over for the Edmonton game because Connor McDavid played in Erie, and it's a chance to see Connor McDavid. Penguins fans, cross the border like Sidney Crosby fans. So it's a big part of business here. And unlike any other team, they play both national anthems. They broadcast their games in Canada on Fubo. So, this is an important relationship they have with their Canadian customers. And it's an interesting situation that I think will play out over time, but there's no doubt that it's going to have some sort of negative impact. It's going to be sort of case by case. That's how the Sabres have been handling it, communicating. Obviously, if a season ticket holder calls and they probably have a long list of issues, right? Because of how things have gone on the ice. But if this is one of those situations, the Sabres feel like they don't have a ton of control over this. They're not setting these policies. They're not controlling what's being said by the government, but they control what they can control, which is playing the anthem, broadcasting the games, and having that one-to-one dialogue. And that is one thing I'll say that was consistent with people I talked to, is that they do feel like the treatment from their ticket reps is really good, and that relationship that's been an important part of business for the Sabres, because keeping business is not easy when you're losing the way the Sabres have.
What about that home ice, Matt? Because for years, it's nothing new. You mentioned it. When certain teams come in, it feels like home ice is a thing of the past in Buffalo. It doesn't happen very often, where you have Leafs fans taking over the arena. And then on top of that, an arena that has aged out now. I know you have the new scoreboard, but it does feel like there needs to be some renovations. Where does that factor into all of this as well? And if you're a player for the Sabres, is it something that they talk about? Is it something that's frustrating that on certain nights their home barn doesn't feel like a home ice advantage?
I feel like it was more of a conversation last year and the year before and this year, maybe these guys have resigned themselves to it a little bit, or maybe Lindy Ruff did mention, before the Leafs game, like, we got to take the crowd out of it. And it's like, man, this is a home game.
Yeah.
But it's the reality of the situation. And I think they have been a slightly better home team this year. So I think they've been better about mentally handling what they're walking into each night, which sometimes might mean on Tuesday night there's 12,000 people there and there's not much of an atmosphere. Some nights it might be that, not even just the Canadian teams, but like the Ranger game is sold out, but there's a ton of Rangers fans there, or the Penguins game, there's a ton of Penguins fans there. They've gotten used to that, I think. And what I've noticed in my 3 seasons on the beat, and this is where it's a really good point by you, the home ice part of things, like when the building is full and it's rocking, like the Minnesota game a few years ago after the blizzard sticks in my mind.
Yep.
Like, for some reason, it was just like, and I'm sure it wasn't even hitting the level of like what it was like, in 06, 07 and back when they were really good. But that night I was like, man, this place is like nuts. And they fed into that and they played better. So there is this relationship there between the crowd size and there's like, the bigger the crowd, the better this team plays. And so it's such a chicken and egg thing, right? It's like you need to win to get people into the door. But like, if people came into the door, it would probably help them win more. And same goes probably for the spending, right? Like, you need to spend to ice a good team to get people to buy tickets. But if people bought tickets and the team was doing better financially, there might be more of a willingness to spend. So they're kind of caught in this vicious cycle in so many ways that they just need to overcome certain factors to win and get to the playoffs and sort of break that dam. Because I think we all know if the Sabres are playing playoff hockey, warm weather, late April, home games, like, the plaza is going to be full. People are going to be going nuts. People want to be a part of that. And people take a lot of pride in Buffalo and supporting these teams. They want a reason to support the Sabres, and there's just been so few reasons to do it for so long.
Matthew Fairburn from The Athletic is our guest here in the Sports Bar. Invite people to check out his article talking about the state of the franchise right now. And Matthew, I thought it was interesting that you have a quote in there from Bill Daley, basically the right-hand man, the deputy commissioner to Gary Bettman. And I don't think we're ready to call, or are we? The Sabres kind of on alert here. But if you had to say, all right, now that the Arizona franchise is, that's been moved up to Utah, I mean, where do the Sabres rank, I guess, in terms of most distressed franchises in the NHL? Is there any cause for concern?
Well, that's why I wanted to ask the question, because I think if you don't think about that, you're being somewhat naive. This is a strong hockey town, and it's one that the league cares about. Gary Bettman in particular cares about, but Gary Bettman's getting up there in age, and there is, at some point in the next few years, exactly how many years that is, I don't know, but there will be a new commissioner. Maybe it is Bill Daley, in which case some of that loyalty to Buffalo will remain. As you mentioned, like he's quoted in the story, he thinks it's a good franchise in a great market with committed ownership, and there's no concern whatsoever. I think one early hint that I think is positive for Buffalo is that the league is talking about expanding right now, which to me says they're not in a mindset of moving a team, right? I don't think they want to move a team out of Buffalo, because I think they know if the team does well on the ice, the market will support it and it will be a strong market. But they are the smallest American market in the league, second smallest market in the league behind Winnipeg. And when the alarm bells got sounded on Winnipeg last year, that's sort of what, sparked my mind to say, man, if you can talk that way about Winnipeg, and I know they've lost the team before, but that's a hockey crazy place. And sometimes, when the league is chasing these big markets, you kind of wonder, in this day and age, like if they were starting from scratch, would a team go in Buffalo? But I don't think there's imminent cause for concern. I just feel like you can only have a situation like this for so long. I mean, they're really stretching it to the limit here, 14 years, no playoffs. And I do wonder what those season ticket numbers will look like next year and what that means financially. I mean, Terry Pegula does quite well for himself. We know he's not short on money, but he's building a new football stadium. You know, he's investing a lot in the Bills. That team makes money, you know, hand over fist with the TV contracts and everything else. Like, they just need desperately to win. And I think, you know, I did not expect the NHL to, you know, come out and say that there was, you know, any sort of concern, but I think it was a pretty strong statement that they're committed to this market. And I don't think it's something that's on the radar, but, you know, if you can't get it right on the ice and it continues to hurt business, then, you know, that's just something that you have to have in the back of your mind, I think.
Matt, what about Pegula? You mentioned him. He's acknowledged as the worst owner in the NHL. We hear the chants of sell the team. We've got a GM who's making excuses, although apparently is you know, has Terry Pegula's, you know, he wanted to be heard when he moved on from Bottrell. He's got his guy in Kevin Adams, but, you know, Kevin Adams with the palm trees and the taxes and the disaster that was earlier this year. Any chance that this guy says, you know what, bit off more than I can chew, love the team, love the area, but there's a billionaire in waiting that wants to buy this team, have at it, I'm out?
I don't think so. I mean, how many billionaires are out there that would keep the team in Buffalo would be my question.
Right.
I don't know. You know, there's a lot of wealthy people that are eager to get their hands on an NHL team, but how many of them are willing to keep it in Buffalo? We've got the group in Houston, the group in Atlanta. I'm sure Quebec City would like to get back in the mix, but the state of the Canadian dollar makes it so that seems unrealistic right now. But you have these different groups that seem interested, but, you know, there's a group in New Orleans even that has talked to the NHL. But again, they're interested in bringing it to their city. And so I don't think Terry Pegula is really at that point. I have never gotten the sense that he is. Every time you ask, it's like, you know, this team's not for sale. But one thing I think would be interesting or worth exploring is the idea of bringing in some minority owners. And you see Pittsburgh doing that in the NHL. You've seen a few NFL teams do it, including the Bills. And in terms of injecting some capital into the team and getting some different voices, that would be a way to do it. But is he willing to do that? I mean, he bought the team for, $189 million? Like, pretty good investment considering what these teams are going for now. And he likes hockey. We know he likes to, like you said, be heard. And, you know, I don't know that there's a ton of urgency from him to sell the team. I think there is a frustration in terms of how he's perceived, especially it is kind of funny how you won't hear a lot of Bills fans really complaining about Terry Pegula. And then, you know, in that survey we did at The Athletic and in those owner rankings, I mean, he's, you know, voted the worst owner in the NHL. It's winning fixes everything in a sense, but there's also so many missteps they've made along the way that I keep thinking about that minority ownership thing and wondering if some additional voices and some additional capital might really help this franchise.
Are they being accountable enough to their customers here, Matthew? Because yes, you hired Picuelli, but he's also in charge of the Bills and the new stadium and everything else. And correct me if I'm wrong here. Last time Terry Pegula actually spoke to reporters, that was right after Bottrell got fired? I mean, do I have that correct, Matthew? Should we be asking to hear from Terry Pegula once in a while, hey, how do you fix this mess?
So, yeah, the last time he took questions from reporters was when he hired Kevin Adams. So which all happened at once, right? Firing Bottrell, hiring Kevin Adams. And he did speak at Lindy Ruff's press conference, but he did not take questions. He just sort of gave a statement, and that was that. I think you could definitely make the case that they're not accountable or transparent enough with their customers. And, you know, a few of the fans I spoke to, you know, one of them said that this is an extremely tone-deaf organization. Look, I'm not going to bang the table and say that Terry Pegula needs to answer questions from reporters to, you know, provide the level of accountability or transparency, but his name wasn't on the letter that went out to season ticket holders. That to me is a pretty simple thing. He doesn't even need to write the letter. And Pete Goelli declined comment for this story. Multiple requests dating back a while. I've been working on this story for a bit. So, I thought that was a chance to sort of speak directly to the fan base. And like you said, he also has the same title with the Bills. It's not totally uncommon, that a team shares a COO. There's a few other instances of it with owners that own multiple teams, but the NFL is major business. They're building a stadium. They have a lot going on. And so, yesterday Pete Goelli spoke to a few outlets, or I think he spoke to the Buffalo News at least, about the Hallmark movie that the Bills are going to be in. And so it's like, I think there are, Sabres fans that say, like, come on, like what's being done here? What's the level of urgency, business-wise and hockey-wise, to kind of figure this thing out? And he went on the radio on Bills night, to promote Bills night at the Sabres Stadium, on the Sabres, radio station with Duffer and Marty. So, like, picking and choosing. I'm sure he'll speak at the owners' meetings, at the NFL owners' meetings next week. And I think there's opportunities there to be transparent, to be accountable, and maybe opportunities missed. And that stuff only matters, again, when you're losing, right? Like, that few of the fans I spoke to are like, I don't even need to feel respected as a fan. Just win. Show me I'm respected by putting a winning product on the ice. I don't care about the seats or the concessions or my season ticket discount or how long the players stay for the autograph night for season ticket holders. Like, show me that you care by winning, and they haven't done that. So everything else gets magnified. Like Lindy Ruff and Kevin Adams did a Q&A with season ticket holders the other night. So they do some of those things. And Adams, did speak to us in December. He didn't do a bang up job of it. Obviously, it did more harm than good, but he spoke after the trade deadline, and he did that event with ticket holders. So it's like, there's been some level of it there. And obviously Lindy speaks every day. But, from different levels of the franchise, people definitely feel disconnected and don't feel valued in the right way. And those little things matter when you're not winning. I think there would be maybe a different feeling if there was a little bit more of that connection.
Matthew, it's crazy that we've gotten to this point over as long as it's taken for us to get to this point. We've talked to a lot of Sabres reporters and people that are close to the team and asked their opinion. What would you do, Matthew? What would your opinion be as far as an off-season checklist here for the organization?
I think if they wanted to, I think back to 2016, the Bills kind of feels similar of, the end of the Rex Ryan, Doug Whaley era, and they really started from scratch in their football operations. And it started with Sean McDermott, but then, sort of trickled down to the front office, and there was sort of wiping the slate clean as far as culture goes. And I think that's where the investment really would help them. Look, Kevin Adams has had 5 seasons on the job, and the team is not really in a better place than it was even a couple of years ago. He's on his 3rd coach, and they're in last place in the Eastern Conference. Some of the moves he's made have worked out. Others and some organizational philosophies haven't worked as far as rushing players to the league and, not bolstering the roster with enough veterans and not making the team tough enough to play against. And they're still the youngest team in the league. Like, you don't win very often when you're the youngest team in the league. Like, you don't make the playoffs very often with that setup. You don't make the playoffs very often when you have $6 million in unspent cap space, especially in a flat cap league. So that would be where it would start for me. It's different, obviously, than football because coaches change so often in hockey that the culture change almost has to start in the front office with more experienced. Now, I'm not even talking about a GM that's done the job before, but just people that have come up through the ranks and, kind of earned their stripes in hockey ops. Kevin Adams definitely skipped some steps there And I think it's shown through in some of the mistakes he's made in roster building. So if they were willing to do it, look, it doesn't matter to me whether it's, president of hockey ops or whoever else, like what the structure exactly looks like, but building out an experienced and strong, capable staff. I do think that the roster itself, it needs work, but it doesn't need to meet, like if you bring in a new GM, it doesn't mean you need to tear it down and start over again. There are pieces in place to make this a competitive team, and I do think they're in a pretty delicate place hockey-wise when you consider it would be a risk to bring back, the status quo, bring back Kevin Adams, bring back Lindy Ruff, and bring back the whole crew, because you have J.J. Peterka, Bo Byram, Ryan McLeod, Jack Quinn, Devin Levi, all RFAs. You have Alex Tuck eligible to sign a contract extension this summer, 1 year left on his deal. These are big organizational decisions, and Kevin Adams even mentioned it after the deadline that he needs to, if not sell, just convince J.J. Peterka of the direction that this thing is heading. And, we saw all the Darlene stuff that came out a few weeks ago, which I think was probably a little bit overblown, but ignoring the reality that could happen, that these guys could get burnt out on losing the way the previous group of star players did is dangerous. Like that is a real possibility with any player that loses this long. So you've reached an inflection point here where these guys need to be convinced that this thing is heading in the right direction. And are they convinced of the GM's vision when it's gotten them to where they are right now? They hold a lot of responsibility for that, but they also, look around the room and see all the young players and see, the lack of veteran experience and the lack of moves that are made at certain times. And I think this is an important time for them to really sell some of these guys and convince them to be here long term, especially, Byram's from outside the organization. Peterka was, kind of in the rumor mill around the trade deadline. So Tuck, his next contract could, if not be his last, it'll be one of his last, depending on how long of a deal it is. And, we know how much he loves the area and loves the franchise, but does he want to sign away the rest of his career to this team? Like, you got to convince him of that. And, can this GM do that? I have my doubts about that.
The Buffalo Sabres are testing the limit of how much suffering a fan base can handle. Matthew Fairburn, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Matthew, always a treat to talk to you, and thank you for filling us in here on everything going on in Buffalo.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Nice to have Fairburn Friday back here in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, and as far as the plan to dig out of this, I think they run it back. I think the GM stays, the head coach stays.
Be a mistake.
Right, but don't you get the feeling?
We get the feeling that everybody's back.
Yeah.
Get the feeling that everybody's back, and just believe that will be a mistake. I can't. It's one thing, like, if Terry Pegula, who wanted to be heard, is actually the guy pulling the strings, that Kevin Adams is checking in everything through Terry Pegula, and hear things like the Sabres haven't spent to the salary cap, the things that we just discussed with Matthew, it's alarming. It's alarming. We talk about meddlesome owners, and it feels like we've all had our like, we believe that maybe he's meddlesome, but you get some confirmation here that, he probably is meddling a little bit more than he needs to. And you've got a guy in Kevin Adams, Kevin with a Y. The Y stands for yes. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Whatever you need. I think it'd be a mistake. I like his idea, and I like the parallel. The Bills' darkest days, they blew everybody out. They moved on from a lot of good players. They brought in a head coach nobody knew of. They brought in a GM that worked well with the head coach, and ownership got out of their way. You guys know what you're doing. Go do it. Why can't we have that with the Sabres? It feels like that's what's needed.
There's so many mistakes here. And one, I want to point out that Kevin Adams paid these guys too soon. Oh, we're going to get them at a discount. You haven't won anything. You haven't made the playoffs. So it's a cast right now that going to be run back, kind of fearful. We've got time for your calls in happy hour. We'll switch it up. We'll talk some football.
Yeah.
I promise. 866-4FAN, 866-432.
Happy hour next on the Fan Rochester.
9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Rochester Red Wings opening day. They fall on the road 6-2 in Buffalo. The home opener for the Wings coming up on Tuesday. Hockey night tonight in the Flower City as the Bridgeport Islanders make their only appearance. Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call beginning at 7 here on The Fan. Now, before that, as promised, they're in the third. The Monroe County Sheriff's Department leading the Rochester Police Department 7-3. That's the hometown heroes game right now at the Blue Cross Arena. Division III men's hockey semifinal. They're in the third. Hobart is up on SUNY Geneseo 2-1. St. John Fisher women's lacrosse looking to remain undefeated on the season. They're nationally ranked. Sage the opponent tomorrow. Our coverage will begin at 1 o'clock. Got the Sweet 16 tonight. Ole Miss and Michigan State beginning at 7. Rochester Nighthawks back home tomorrow night against San Diego. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
We motor on through, onward to the draft. Another day, another discussion to have with you about it.
The Buffalo Bills select. My shot at the Braves is they're not going to be that much better than the Mets this year. Braves in second, Mets in third. Obviously, Phillies win the division.
Mike Danger.
Gene, look at this body. Look at this temple that stands in front of you. This temple is clean. How dare you? No, I have never lost my voice.
Gene Battaglia.
Danger, for the record, I did not call you a company man. You are not this, okay? This is what a company man sounds like.
The Grizzlies have fired head coach Taylor Jenkins.
Sweet 16 continues.
Amerks, Sabres.
I got to tell you, I know you're going to be shocked by this. I've never watched a Hallmark movie.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. And by the way, even though it's Bill-centric, will you watch the Bills Hallmark movie?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, it's a hard no for me. No way.
No. Here's why you'll end up watching.
I'm not watching it.
No, hear me out. Stop. You don't think there's going to be at least one person you know personally that will end up, whether it's a cameo or one line, you wouldn't that would not be supporting a friend if that's the case.
Oh, please.
Oh, who cares?
Yeah, okay. I'm supposed to get excited because you're an extra in a Hallmark movie?
If Jenna Cottrell, as she's trying to get and she's put her hand up in
I'm
there.
sure Jenna will do her part by sharing her clip in the Hallmark movie on X, and I will see that part of the movie, but I'm not sitting through a Hallmark movie, even if it is football-centric.
Okay. Let me turn this around. What if your boy ended up as an extra?
Who's my boy?
Me!
What, you want to be an extra in the Hallmark movie, Gene?
Yeah, why not? That'd be kind of fun. Have you had to spring this by the executive producer? But, why not? Her and I going out and, applying to be extras and, we're sitting in a restaurant eating in the back?
Is this something you've always wanted to do? Is this something that you've had on your bucket list?
I think of ideas when you're entering year 26 of marriage here, Danger. You got to do different things.
Keep things fresh, yeah.
Keep things fresh, what
is this what I have to look forward to when I become an empty nester? Hey, sweetheart, there's a Hallmark movie taping down the thruway. You want to go try and be an extra? I mean, the executive producer and my wife are different,
No, they are different people. They went to the same high school.
Different breeds. Yeah, that would not be something that would get my wife excited. Therefore, it doesn't really get me excited. We would have to have a different conversation. But, yeah, if you're telling me I'm a bad friend because I'm not supporting the person who is an extra.
Oh, who cares?
See, that's... You're going to look down on me if I actually apply.
No, I want you to do it. Now you have to do it. Now you guys have to do it. Now for the sake of the show, you have to follow through.
Well, who knows the schedule and everything else? Who knows?
You're already making excuses. You're approaching it all wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to know when the schedule is. Yes, I want to know when open casting is happening. Yes, I'm going to sign up for it, Gino. That's what you need to be telling yourself right now. You and the executive producer need to do this for the sake of the show.
For the sake of the show.
Yeah.
I need to kind of have a base. We know how this is going to go, right? It's the one woman in Buffalo who doesn't like football, but she falls in love with the guy who likes the Bills. And then, oh, my gosh, you're here getting a Christmas tree. Oh, I am too. Hey, let's have some hot cocoa.
It sounds terrible. It sounds so terrible. and I know everybody's going to eat it up. I can't do it, man. I can't bring myself to give up, what are we saying, 80 minutes of my life to watch this Hallmark movie that is based on fandom of the Buffalo Bills, finding love as fans of the Buffalo Bills. I know that there are people listening, I'm sure, that have found love through the Buffalo Bills. I respect that, and I love that for you. I don't need a movie about it, though.
I actually laughed out loud because you forget the depths that we went to during the drought era, where how I think, like, we started with the jumping through tables and lighting things on fire.
Felt like a cope.
Yeah, it was total cope. It's like, hey, we still want to do this, but like the losing Stucks, we're gonna like have our own fun. And I remember this, Danger. I don't remember if we were on the air, but there was a couple doing something that they shouldn't have been doing in the parking lot.
That's
and
the
like,
Buffalo Bills love story.
That's right.
I would tune in for.
Like years later, let's check in.
I've seen some images. I've seen some images of true love and what that looks like at Highmark Stadium. And believe me, it doesn't look like a Hallmark movie. It looks more like Caligula. Let's get that. I'd watch that. The Hallmark movie? Nah, not realistic enough for me. I want to know about the couple that met while banging in the porta potty before the game. That's the Buffalo Bills love story I'm signing up for. I don't think that Hallmark's going to pick that story up, though.
Quick score update. Duke 47-38, women's basketball. That's not the halftime score. That's the final.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
38 points in the Sweet 16.
I'm sorry, man.
Wow.
I'll be shocked if, regardless of the matchup, you're not going to get anywhere near the kind of eyeballs that you got last year, right? I mean, like, you had a player who we all recognize is great and did something that nobody else had ever done before and captured our imagination, captured our attention. And I don't think you have that this year. And the product overall is just, 38 points?
38 points.
Sorry. That's a lot of missed field goals.
Maybe it was just great defense. I don't know. Didn't see the game, but Duke, North Carolina, like, whoa, that's actually the final. Had to double check it. Yeah, that's true. Another quick update, and you tell me if this is a Francesa or not. Our friend Kevin Roche tweeted me. Now, we haven't talked about this.
Before you share this, just if you're new to the show and we gloss something, a Francesa. Francesa is
who cares?
Something that we really don't care about. But Francesa said, who cares? After learning that comic book legend Stan Lee had passed away on his old show on WFAN.
So
is this a Francesa?
It's just a Francesa.
Who cares?
Thank you for tapping the brakes there, because sometimes I don't want to get too inside. If you're new to the show, this is our kind of lingo.
And by the way, if you're checking us out for the first time, you're like, what are these guys talking about? We might not be for you. We might be for everybody. Just give us some time. Give us a couple weeks. And if you like our brand of vodka, stick around. We love that. If not, we know you have a lot of options. We're going to continue to do what we do because we consider it a privilege to be able to talk sports here in the Flower City. Kevin Roche, our friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show. The CW, Rochester, Friday Night Rivals, and then over at RIT now as your host. Well, RIT this time last year was playing in the NCAA. Oh, my gosh. That was the year they were playing the kid that's now with San Jose, and they gave him a game.
Scalabrini, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's Bentley. He's the Atlantic hockey representative, and apparently I'm not paying any attention to this.
Where's Bentley?
Bentley is in a suburb of Boston. So Bentley University, winners of Atlantic hockey.
Who cares?
Gave Boston College a matchup, BC winning. And Kevin texted me like, hey, Bentley's giving him a game. And I tweeted him I found a picture of Mike Francesa putting his palm out as if to say no.
Who cares?
And he's like, wow, I got Francesa. And I asked you, is that kind of mean to do to Kevin?
No, Kevin's a friend. And I'm in a lot of different text groups and chains throughout the course of my day. My phone will blow up, or I'll get an alert and I'll look at him like, you guys this is a giant Francesa. This is just wasting my time. I'm kind of jealous.
Who cares?
Of the people that have that kind of time throughout their day to just rifle out text message after text message on whatever the topic may be. Giant Francesa.
Who cares?
Bentley. Not ready for prime time.
No. Now by the way, the hockey portal opens up Sunday.
While the tournament is going on.
Yeah. Love this NCAA.
Is this what you need the NCAA for? Do you need the NCAA if only to move the transfer portal? Because they already feel like a worthless organization right now.
What do you need the NCAA for?
But what do you do here? Show us that you do something. Okay, make a change and make that change be the transfer portal happens after the postseason is up, when it's all over, not in the middle
of the... don't tell me because, well, they need to take finals. These are student athletes after all.
Not anymore. Not anymore, pal. Not anymore.
No.
You can say that. You can sell that all you want. Not anymore. They're making money. And I'll stop short of saying, like, we're getting peppered with the ads. And we don't have to worry about this in New York because we can't bet on college athletes and their player props. But don't go after the college athlete who, misses your bet. Like, the same story that we've heard about fantasy football for years and years and years from professional players, and these college athletes are hearing it from you. I didn't hit my parlay because of you, whatever it is. Right? Like, get a life, but also, like, hey, let's ease up on the student athlete part of this when they're making money.
Well, this was a story I want to say 10 years ago. Now it's not. What's the difference? These kids grew up with this. They're better at social media than you. Okay, they know, sometimes maybe not, but they know, and they've been they grew up in this culture. So, yes, people going after them on social media, it's probably not a big surprise to them.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a big surprise to them, and I'm sure they also know how to mute people.
That is the effective tool.
Mute or block.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. They know how to do it more than I do.
I'd like to say to our number one listener, Chris in South Central Kentucky, I have not muted you. I would never think of that.
I have not muted you either, Chris. Even though you might think I have muted you, I have not muted you. I just don't have the time to engage as often as I would like.
We're running 10,000 miles a minute here.
That's right. Fun afternoon talking to Matthew Fairburn. I wish it was a more uplifting topic, the future of the franchise for the Buffalo Sabres and his piece in The Athletic. That was really fun diving into that and getting his take. 3 years on the beat now with the Buffalo Sabres and Fairburn sharing some thoughts and potentially some solutions. We'll see some opinions that I just, if they run it back, I just can't stress what a giant mistake I think that would be. But at least Terry is being heard.
Well, for years in the drought era of the Buffalo Bills, you always sold something, whether it was T.O. or the new head coach or whatever it was, it gave you a little hope. And the Bills aren't unique to that. Every NFL team kind of does that.
Got to learn how to sell hope.
What the heck are you selling with this team next year? And there are some real concerns. Like hearing Matthew point out, hey, 7 to 10% of your season ticket holders actually come from Canada. Not to mention all the single season. Well, you don't like the Leafs invading your arena, but that's a real thing. Like border crossings are down now. So how does this impact businesses like the Buffalo Sabres? And it's too soon to kind of tell on that stuff, but that might be another log on the fire here. Team losing, you got these other circumstances. The fact that Matthew reached out to Gary Bettman's office, okay, that to me tells you something right there. And of course, Bill Daly gets back to him. No, Buffalo's a great market, and we really love it's
nothing to see here.
Yeah,
nothing to see here. I also think Matthew's point on Pagula selling the team is a valid one. We could chant sell the team every single night. Be careful what you wish for, because who's buying it that's going to keep them in Buffalo? If you're a billionaire owner and you want a piece of a major league franchise, don't you think you can make more money if you moved it to a growth market?
Which, again, careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying these last few years of Amerks hockey. The Amerks are something that I remember from decades ago, and it's actually kind of come back. The fact that you're going to have sold-out arenas, people into this team, it's a quality product, and if you bring in a different owner, that's what makes it so puzzling. Like, they could just slash that to the bone, too. I'm not telling you to do that, mind you. Like, just leave us alone here. Let us do our thing.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Terry Pagula, by the way.
read some of the comments. Yeah,
I didn't read it. Oh, I'm sure that they were rich.
Yeah,
I avoided the comments on his birthday wish, but yeah, that was a fun conversation with Matthew Fairburn. Always good catching up with our old friend from Fairburn Fridays here in the Sports Bar. Mike Mutnansky, Mutt, stopping by as well earlier this afternoon, and there's growing optimism in Boston, not just with the Patriots, but also with the Red Sox. It was good to get his take on both franchises.
So much so that I didn't realize this, like on ESPN's baseball show, which is still on, by the way, the majority of them picking the Red Sox to win the World Series. I'm like, oh my gosh, I fell late in line with other people on this. I thought I was doing something like the Red Sox are going to be better. I think the Red Sox are going to be a playoff team. I think they're actually going to win that division. I don't think the Orioles did enough this offseason. The Yankees certainly have their issues. Toronto, it's a matter of time. It's either the end of the year or midseason when Vladdy leaves, okay? And then the Rays, what do you make of them? By the way, they're opening up today in their home park.
Yeah.
Out there.
You got a giant Yankees logo above where it says home of the Rays. That's demoralizing.
It's satisfying, though. You can point to one game where the Buffalo Bills lost the game, but in reality, that was the thing to do. The fact that they lost Week 18, they were saying, New England, go ahead. You lose too. And
Josh Allen took one snap, got out of the game, and we basically said, come get it, guys. You want it, it's yours.
Yep. Congratulations. So instead of drafting first, you're now drafting fourth. How would this draft have looked differently? I'll tell you what it would look differently. We'd all be speculating who the Patriots would be trading with. Or maybe they're going to trade Travis Hunter. They'd be in the catbird seat here. Instead, they're going to get the best of the four remaining, which isn't a bad spot, but you could have maximized your value danger. I think it's ridiculous. What Mr. Mayo
Thanks
did.
for your time, Mr. Mayo.
Mr. Mayo will never be a head coach in this league again for doing that. You had to stand down. You had to do the honors, as they would say in wrestling. You didn't do that because you're a man. You're a coach. We play win. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Steph Diggs also introduced to the Patriots today, press conference today. So having Mutt talk about that signing for the Patriots along with their other free agent signings.
We're still above board. Said Josh is my boy because inevitably somebody asked him the question about Drake May and being there for a young quarterback, and he said Josh is my boy and something along the lines of I still see these qualities in Drake May and blah blah blah.
Yeah, he didn't say anything. Diggs knows how to present. He knows how to present in a press conference.
He's a smart guy.
He's a strategic, smart thinker. He's a competitor. He's emotional, but he ain't going to let that emotion out in a public setting like a press conference. I mean, he's strategic, and he's calculating, and he's intense and competitive. That's not a nothing for the Patriots to sign him. That's something to see. His health, that's really what I want to see. How does he look post-ACL? Can he still separate? Can he still run those crisp routes that we saw him run while he was in Buffalo? If you missed Mutt, if you missed Matthew Fairburn, we got both of those conversations available for you. You can find the Sports Bar wherever you get your podcasts. Search out the Sports Bar, and you'll find us, all of our guest appearances there. And if you miss any part of the show that you maybe want to go back and check out, the free-to-download Odyssey app with Rewind. You can just go to any chapter of the show that you'd like and catch. It's like a DVR for your radio, all in the free-to-download Odyssey app. We got a round of shots on the way next.
Yeah, we'll set you up for tonight here as you've got certainly more great college basketball. What happened with Maryland, the fallout there. The transfer portal hitting one of the local teams here. We'll tell you who's losing one of their best players here. And Alex Ovechkin, could he do this against the Sabres on Sunday? Probably not, but fun to explore.
All right, we'll get to that and more next. Don't forget about Last Call before we close up shop at 6. If you want to have the final word in the Sports Bar, that number is 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Because mornings are better with sports. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Opening day for the Rochester Red Wings. They had a 2-1 lead. They end up falling at Buffalo 6-2. Home opener for Rochester coming up on Tuesday. It is hockey night tonight in the Flower City. First of 3 straight games in 3 days for the Amherst. Bridgeport, the opponent tonight. Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks will have your call beginning at 7. They've gone final in the game before that, though, at the Blue Cross Arena. The Monroe County Sheriff's Department defeating the Rochester Police Department in the Hometown Heroes game 8-3. The final. Also a final, the Division III men's hockey semifinal. Hobart advancing, knocking off SUNY Geneseo 2-1. St. John Fisher women's lacrosse tomorrow looking to remain undefeated on the season, hosting Sage. Our coverage will begin at 1 o'clock here on the Sports Leader. Sweet 16 action tonight. Ole Miss and Michigan State beginning at 7. Rochester Nighthawks home tomorrow night against San Diego. G. Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
Bills fans, Odyssey is your home for football. Stay up to date on everything Bills, no matter where you are, with the Odyssey app and the Sports Leader, The Fan, Rochester.
RPD calling foul. Too many ringers on that Monroe County Sheriff's Office team.
Warren Kozel telling me it actually got physical there in the field.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
Got to do something if it's 8-3. You got to have something going on. 8-3, a little out of hand. A little worried. RPD maybe didn't match the level of ringers that the sheriff's office brought in.
Or maybe they just had more hockey players.
Maybe.
I don't know if they brought in ringers or not.
Man, well, we got confirmation that they said we may have dipped into some youth. We may have dipped into some ringers
They
for the team.
can't bring in guys that are not members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. They just had they can recruit that way.
Tapped in some of the youth. They had younger legs. Big win for the sheriff's office over RPD. Hometown Heroes night tonight at the arena. Can't wait.
And thank your first responders, people.
At minimum.
Yeah.
It's not a magnet. It's not even that. It's a great gesture, but it's not that magnanimous. You just don't have to go out of your way. You just say thanks. I think they appreciate that. They do appreciate that.
After getting blown out in the NCAA tournament, Maryland basketball coach Kevin Willard said he had no idea what was next, and he has no regrets as to how this week played out. As of now, he's not yet been named the head coach at Villanova, but at least Maryland seniors, Danger, they can look forward to Kermit the Frog giving the commencement speech at their upcoming graduation.
Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here to talk to the commencement graduating class, the University of Maryland. Yay!
Kermit, what do you think about this coach just kind of quitting on his team and leaving for Villanova?
Hickey, I'm here to sue him. I'm going to sue him and sue everyone at Maryland. Punitive damages. Yay!
Nope. Close. Something's off there.
I don't know. I'm trying.
Better seeds. They all won on Thursday. Let's see if we get that again tonight. We begin at 7:09 CBS between the tip for number 2 Michigan State.
It's not easy being green.
Number 6 Ole Miss. That's going to be followed by number 2 Tennessee against number 3 Kentucky. Then a couple of 1 seeds play. Auburn against number 5 Michigan. Houston taking on a 4 seed in Purdue.
Lovers, the dreamers, and me.
More on Michigan State.
It's not easy being green.
Well, I think they wear their whites tonight, though, as the better seed. It'll have green trim, though. Michigan State and their cantankerous head coach, Tom Izzo, being in the Sweet 16, right? Hey, that's great. Perhaps winning tonight? Big deal, he says. Quote, once you win a national championship, winning a tournament game means nothing. It doesn't turn me on. Wow.
I love this guy. What does turn you on at your age? Nothing will turn you on. You've seen it all. You've done it all. Of course it doesn't turn you on.
Hear me out, Danger. Hear me out, because you hear this from coaches, and I believe this to be the truth. When they tell you, like, hey, you didn't win a championship, but this is the favorite team I ever had. Because when you can maximize the talent, you bring, if you exceed expectation. I guess Izzo isn't one of those guys.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's proud of the team that he has this year and that they've achieved Sweet 16 status. But I hear what he's saying. Win the whole thing. Otherwise, who cares? Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to remember this team unless they win the whole thing. So it doesn't turn me on. That's my favorite. Nothing turns you on at this point, Coach. You've been here too long.
That's why you see so many of those pharmaceutical ads.
Yeah, that's
Hey.
right.
Like,
There's a cream for that, Coach. You're really worried about being turned on during your tournament run.
a loss for St. Bonaventure basketball. Rochester's Melvin Council Jr. has entered the transfer portal. He played at Wagner last year, year one, so this will be his third team in 3 seasons.
Okay.
I guess the Woj effect didn't happen there. The NBA playoffs, if they started today, the LA Lakers would be a 4 seed, opening up against the 5th seed, Memphis. This is a surprise. Today, Memphis firing head coach Taylor Jenkins. The Grizzlies were 44-29. Coincidentally, Memphis' next game against the Lakers, that's actually tomorrow night. Tonight, the Knicks playing in Milwaukee at 8 o'clock. Boston tomorrow night at San Antonio. And with the NCAA tournament games going on, there aren't going to be any NBA games this weekend on either ESPN or ABC.
Smart. We're going to be watching the tournament.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a couple nights off. There's your load management. Now get back on the court.
There are games going on. I think you can search them out. Alex Ovechkin did not score last night against Minnesota. Next game up for Washington is Sunday at home against the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay.
If he wants to break the record on Sunday, he'll need 6 goals against Buffalo.
Let's go. Just give it up. Might as well. Let's be known for something this season. Let's be known as the team that gave up 6 to give up the record to Ovechkin.
The Sabres also play tomorrow, 1 o'clock at Philadelphia, which, hey, Philadelphia had him in the standings, but they've just fired Torts. By the way, that game tomorrow will be on WCMF. That's because we have St. John Fisher Lacrosse. And a little hat tip to you, the sports bar listener, because St. John Fisher women's lacrosse, danger, they could win the national championship. They
undefeated so far, right?
Yep, they are that good. And one thing that they do in college women's lacrosse that which other sports would do, the running clock.
Oh.
So remember, if we get to 10 goals, a running clock.
I know where you're going.
The call will be Yahtzee.
Yahtzee.
Tomorrow has a great chance of being a Yahtzee game here.
What's the forecast? What's the forecast for you?
Oh, when the Yahtzee will happen?
No. What's the weather forecast?
Oh, it's crappy tomorrow.
Ugh.
Yeah, this is not a weekend that you're going to be getting a head start on yard work.
I really should look at the forecast. I've stopped looking at the forecast because I'm afraid of what I'll see. And I'm so jacked to get going. Like, I want to set up the projector. I want to watch ball games in the Garagio. I don't want to look at the forecast and see 30s and be like, no, not going to be able to get anything done this weekend.
So it's not going to rain on Tuesday for the Wings opener, April 1st. Ha, ha, ha.
It's not going to get to 50 either, is it?
It's not going to get to 40.
Oh.
36 is the high.
Ooh.
And the thing that's kind of, even though the sun will be out, and I hate that they do this, why not put that at 1 o'clock? No, it's like late afternoon. So,
get warmer later in the afternoon, I suppose.
But yeah, didn't catch a break. Dude, it's still March today. What do we?
I know, but God, I have friends in D.C. and look at the beautiful cherry blossoms in peak. I have another friend who's like, yeah, my car is covered in pollen and I can't breathe. I'm like, I have no sympathy for you guys. It snowed here this week.
Tell yourself September and October is elite. Elite.
Keep reminding myself every day.
Elite season's coming.
It'll get here.
It'll get
here. We're going to take a break and come back with last call. You can have the final word in the sports bar at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening 866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Hockey night in the Flower City. Bridgeport tonight. Hometown Heroes night. Blue Cross Arena. The Amerks on the air here just after 7 o'clock. Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will have the call. The Amerks look to stay hot. 3 games over the next 3 days.
And then we get to April. You know what April means, Danger? Like, we'll be having Amerks playoff hockey before you know it.
Mm-hmm.
3 weekends left. That's it.
Yeah. It's coming. It's going to be exciting. Great action tonight as the Sweet 16 comes to its conclusion. And by the time we get here to Monday, we'll have a Final Four. We'll know who will be looking to cut down the nets. In a couple of weeks. It's going to be fun. We hit our Sabres quota for, I think, the rest of the year.
We did. I was going to say the quarter, but you're saying rest of the year?
Well, I think that's negotiable depending on how the offseason goes.
Mm.
If it's status quo, then we're good. We don't have to address anything until there's actual sweeping changes. I don't think we'll see it.
Sabres win the lottery.
Don't care. Let's play the Francesa game for the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay. Sabres end the season winning 8 of their last 10.
Oh, who cares?
Sabres, Terry Pagula actually gives a press conference.
Oh, who cares?
No? Okay.
I don't care. I mean, we'll discuss it, I'm sure, if that were to happen, but words are words. Whenever they have a press conference, it's usually disastrous. I'd rather just take action.
Sabres announced slight alterations to their 2025-2026 uniforms.
Oh, who cares?
Sabres say that Devin Levi will compete with UPL for the starting goaltender job next year.
Oh, who cares?
I like Devin Levi.
Yes.
I like Devin Levi. Selfishly, I don't want him to. I want him to stay in Rochester. Just stay. Stay as long as you can stay. But we'll see how that plays out. We didn't talk any of that with Matthew Fairburn earlier today. It was really more just a global conversation about the franchise and where it's going and what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it's how could you run something so well with the Buffalo Bills? Is it just because of Josh Allen? I'm asking that question seriously. Like, what if it were Josh Rosen instead of Josh Allen and that ended? Will we be talking about the Buffalo Bills the
meddlesome
same way?
owner.
Yeah.
I think meddlesome owner. I think in one franchise, he's part of the elite club of NFL owners, which is not the same as being part of the elite club of NHL owners. And that, I think, just takes away your time. But when you do involve yourself in the Sabres, you're meddling, not in a positive way.
See, I don't know, meddling is the way I would describe it. I would say not absentee, but this is your budget, and that's where it ends.
Who do you think has, I mean, ultimately he has the power, but do you get the sense that Terry is more the Sabres GM than Kevin is the Sabres GM?
Kevin is neutered. He can't do anything without asking Terry. If it involves payroll, if it involves this, that's where maybe it's kind of getting
That's the
meddlesome.
problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like, that's the huge problem. And I don't want to say sell the team anymore. My instincts say sell the team. I don't want to say it anymore because sell the team could result in them literally not being the Buffalo Sabres anymore.
But the weird thing is he flew to Montreal and said, this is the head coach,
Oh,
this
who
is
cares?
the GM. That's another
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Who cares? You think the billionaire owner is going to get through to these guys? Nobody's gotten through to these guys. Sweeping changes. That's the only thing. And I guess what is that? How do you define that? Move on from anything cancerous in the locker room. Move on from the GM. Move on from the coach.
We would be more invested, Danger, if you simply brought in a real GM, team president, new head coach, and traded Thompson Darlene. And like, honestly, okay, we're going to reshape the whole thing here.
Yeah, well, lot can happen between now and when that decision is made, or nothing will happen, and we'll go into next season. And like I said, we'll have hit our quota after talking to Matthew Fairburn earlier today. But I did enjoy our conversation with Mutt as well, Mike Manansky, talking a little New England Patriots, talking to Boston Red Sox. Diggs introduced to Patriots media today and saying, as you would expect Diggs to do, saying the right things, getting people excited. And I would be excited if I was a Patriots fan, except for the ACL. That's the only thing that's the risk. But according to Mutt, it's a good risk to take. And he was excited to see that they took that risk, that they made an investment in a player who could be a difference maker. Diggs can be a difference maker, except for that knee. What about that knee? Both of those conversations are available for you wherever you get your shows. You podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You just search out the Sports Bar and you'll find all of our guest appearances there. And, of course, our home online, the free-to-download Odyssey app, AUDACY, where we're always streaming, sounding our best, and you can go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed. I wonder what the world looks like on Monday. Who's in the Final Four?
Dodgers still undefeated, right?
Of course, yes.
Oh, it's like
157 wins. They're on pace for 162. Okay? So I feel pretty good about my prediction heading into the first weekend of Major League Baseball
It's funny,
season.
like when we talked to Mutt, though, it's great for baseball. I
think it's great. I think the Dodgers are great. I think it's great to have a villain. And
well, from this standpoint, all of a sudden the Dodgers are the cool team. Like there's Tom Hanks. There's like the celebs are going like it's a Dodger game.
Yeah.
For baseball.
But I already hate Hollywood and hate LA and hate all those windbags that are out there, all the bloviating, actors who think
MMA and football. I think she might like baseball.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of that stuff anyways. So more reason for me, more gasoline to add to the fire of why we don't need to root for the Dodgers. But they are going to win 157 games this year. We'll be back on Monday. Brand new episode. Amerks Hockey tonight, 7 o'clock from Blue Cross Arena. Hometown Heroes Night, Bridgeport. The opponent, Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will be by on the call. Gino, have a great call tomorrow for St. John Fisher Women's Lacrosse.
Thanks, Danger. You have a good weekend, buddy.
You got it. JR Sport Brief next on the Fan Rochester. You have a great weekend.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. 95.7 FM and AM 9.